hit stories right and left that began this morning with the passing of the great, wonderful Johnny Majors, a man that sort of later in his career I got a chance to get to know, a guy who won a national title, a guy who won 185 football games, a guy who was a legend as a player, a guy who was a legend as a coach. Then we learned the NBA plan. There will be 22 teams. The Grizzlies are in. Did they get the raw end of the deal? We'll discuss that. And then we found out Mike Miller will be leaving the University of Memphis. It's not a big shock. There were rumors that he was going to Detroit as an assistant GM, and there was a published report about that last week. Truth is, that's as an assistant GM, they have to fill the general manager's position, and you would think that GM's going to pick his own assistant, wouldn't you? My feeling is Mike, who wants to spend more time with his family, that's what he said, and I believe he will. I think Mike, in the long run, is going to end up being an agent, and we'll talk more about that when it is all said and done. And then about an hour ago or so, the news came down, and this is newsworthy. Derek Chauvin, the policeman in Minneapolis charged with murder of George Floyd. Now that change in the murder charge goes from third-degree murder to second-degree murder. And the three other police officers were also charged. Just so you know, because I called a couple lawyers to find out what does this really mean. And you have to know that murder charges are all governed by state law. So in Minneapolis, the Attorney General made the change. I think he got some pressure from Senator Amy Klobuchar to make this a more severe sentence. In third-degree murder, there is murder that is committed, but you really did not have the intent to commit murder. Second-degree would mean that your behavior was so wantonly disregarding life, or there was an intent to commit murder. And there was definitely a wanton disregard for life in this particular case by Chauvin. So that is the grounds for the second-degree murder charge. First-degree murder would be premeditated. There was a definite intent even before the murder was perpetrated that you were going to commit that murder. So now we know the three officers that were accomplices are going to be charged. I have not seen an official charge on that yet. And Derek Chauvin has been changed from third-degree murder to second-degree murder, and the penalties that go with all of that. Crazy, wild day thus far. My partner in crime back in his home in Forest City on the avenues of the America. That would be Brett Norsworthy. Are you taking all of this craziness in today?
I am, and you didn't even mention Moussa Cisse.
Well, I didn't mention Moussa Cisse. You're right. I didn't mention Moussa because there is no decision today coming on Moussa Cisse, which I would tell you, in my mind, and I am not a recruiting expert by any means, and the recruiting experts I know.
And you're not a doctor either, right?
Right. Or a lawyer, even though I've checked with a bunch of them today. I am going to tell you that I think Moussa Cisse was heading to LSU. I think this delay in this decision is a good sign for Penny Hardaway and for the University of Memphis basketball program. That doesn't mean it's a done deal, but I think it was going to be.
Somebody's lived here a year and needs another week to decide whether he likes it here or not.
I think he does. Whatever happened, I believe he was on his way to Baton Rouge, and that now.
That's looking at that glass of water half full, if I've ever heard it.
Yeah. What do you think it is then?
I thought it's been Memphis the whole time.
Well, and the delay is not. If that is the case, then I can't see how the delay is a good thing.
I don't know. I can't put my mind in a 17-year-old, and I'm not going to try. You mentioned the Detroit Pistons and Mike Miller. Ed Stefanski runs that team now, and Ed was here in Memphis. His son's the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and Ed Stefanski's a wonderful guy. but he's going to hire the general manager, but he's the basketball boss there. But I would think the new general manager would want to hire his own guy as well. What Mike Miller and a lot of people find out that played at the highest level, coaching is really hard. It is every day. There's no let up. And if he goes into the sports representation business, that's really hard too. All these fun looking sports jobs to get to the top, even to get to middle rung status, you got to put in a lot of hours and a lot of hard work, and a lot of people don't want to do that. I don't know if that weighed on it or not, but I know 1 year ago, Sam Mitchell, who had been a head coach in the NBA and an assistant in a lot of places, he left Coach Hardaway's staff. Now this year with Mike Miller, I think going forward, the template for the new coach, Penny Hardaway is going to be his recruiter. He's going to get the credit and he's going to get the blame. He's the face of the program. He's the sales rep for the program. He's the head coach. With Tony Madlock and Cody Toppert, I think that next coach he needs to hire, of course, with some recruiting abilities, but I think player development and being able to coach basketball will be one of the priorities for the new head coach, or for the new assistant coach to join Tony and Cody Toppert. And Cody Toppert was a sensational hire last year. I think day in, day out, Cody Toppert's more what you want than Sam Mitchell.
Oh,
and they might find somebody else that's more day in, day out, more than Mike Miller. Now, is the cachet, is it former player, is it MM33? No, it's not any of that. But doesn't Coach Hardaway kind of feel that cachet slot?
I think you're right. You know, Cody Toppert is what we would call an X's and O's or development guy. I think that's a fair assessment there. I think Tony is a jack of all trades and
lifer
and a lifer. I think the next guy
knows the grind
could also be, because I agree with you. Penny is going to be the main recruiter. I think the next guy has to be somewhat of a recruiter too, because that was the main mission for Mike, and Mike did a good job. But I do think this. I think once Jalen Green went the other way and the NBA bought him out, and then Greg Brown decided he was going to go to his dad's alma mater and he was going to go to Texas and stay in state. I don't know that Mike was that involved with the day-to-day stuff going on with the U of M, even though this announcement came today. And Mike did it in a classy way on Twitter, saying he was always going to be a Tiger and thanking Penny for the opportunity and how much fun that he had the last 2 years was. But I think it was Penny who, along with Cody Toppert and Tony, that were the ones that got all of these transfer players and the ones that are now working on Moussa Cisse. So I'm with you. I think you want somebody that can recruit, but I'm looking for an X's and O's guy. I don't know if he's going to go the NBA route like he did with Sam Mitchell and like he did with Cody Toppert. That was the MO, especially with Mike Miller there. But maybe you want somebody who knows college basketball strategies more. I don't really know. I think Penny has made, for the most part, all the right moves. But you brought up something really interesting, Brett, and I'm going to throw this back onto you. You said, do you think that Mike Miller thought this was a lot harder job than initially? What is your sense about does Penny Hardaway think that this job is harder maybe than he initially thought? I know, Brett, you might have disappeared there for a second. If you did, my question.
I did. I've only had AT&T out here about 5 times in the last week, so I don't know what's going on, but I did.
But so let me throw this back, and you're fine, no sweats. You said
plenty of sweats.
Yeah, well, I get that part. That's our life, isn't it? Your question about maybe Mike Miller didn't realize this job is as hard as it is. Could we say the same for Penny, who's lost Sam Mitchell, and then now lost Mike, and has lost recruiting battles that he didn't lose early?
I think the full weight of it hit him this year with things both seen and unseen, things you know of when you head into it. Game planning, the other team, they got good players too and good coaches, and then the unseen, the NCAA stuff and a lot of the noise. I don't think the pressure of the program has affected him 1 ounce. I think he was eyes wide open with that. But I've said a couple times through the Coach Hardaway years, I don't know if this is entirely what he was signing up for, because some of the things have changed. The players that he was going to go after, it has changed. And college basketball is changing by the day with the transfer portal and all the, almost the mercenary quality of it.
I think that is really fair. When Penny got this job or contemplated taking this job, he was going to use the model that Mike Krzyzewski and John Calipari used. He was going to try to get every good one and done, and then get as many 4 stars and maybe a 3-star here and there to have roles, and they would turn over quite often. But he would then take great players, mold them into an NBA style, and then send them off on their way to become millionaires. And hopefully they would learn some life lessons here that would help them as they became millionaires. He did not foresee that the G League would come in and be part of the competition, that the NBA would now have this other league where, he lost Jalen Green to basically $1 million, $500,000 from the league and $500,000 in
hard to fight
in sponsors, and that's an impossible fight. You can't win that fight.
But it's not easy to be Mike Krzyzewski and John Calipari.
No, it is not. But I think he was prepared for that and thought he could do that. I do think this is a new wrinkle, and he's going to have to learn to live with that and maybe change what he's really going to look for. He's still go after those guys.
I think what he's going to have to rely on is the city of Memphis always doing what it's always done, and that produce a lot of high-level college basketball talent and potential players, and he'll get 98% of them.
I think that's probably true. Had he gone hard after Matthew Morrell, maybe, and I certainly don't want to take anything away from Ole Miss or their coaching staff because they ended up with a great player. But I think he had priorities on other players at the time. And I don't know if that's not the case when you're going for Greg Brown and Jalen Green, that the kid from West Memphis saw where that priority might be. And if those two came and he thought they were coming, how much playing time would he get? Would that retard his abilities to move quicker? And so, he went to Auburn, where Bruce Pearl could offer a sort of a similar situation but get guaranteed playing time. So, I think you're right. Maybe he will still go after some of those great players, but he'll temper that with maybe a little bit greater effort locally.
And the city of Memphis will always produce those kind of players. And they got fortunate with the relocation of Moussa Cisse, but disregarding that, by and large, year to year, through the years, there's going to be plenty of players within a 30-minute drive of his office, and he's going to get most of those that he really goes hard after. I said it when the Tigers signed Boogie Ellis from San Diego, California. That's just really hard to do that, and they got it done. I think Mike Miller was very instrumental in the Boogie Ellis recruitment. Probably the biggest example of his recruiting prowess in his stint at the University of Memphis. But it's just going to be really hard to go get players nationally for anyone unless you're Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, and we know those names. The Tigers historically aren't in that. The Tigers' best teams historically, maybe the exception of some of the better Cal teams, but for Gene Bartow and for Dana Kirk, they were in that 30-minute drive from their office.
They were. Dana's line was, I just need gas money and I can recruit the greatest players around, and his philosophy was inside out. He would try to get every great player here, and if he had to fill in, he would go outwards to do it, and then that's sort of been the opposite track for John Calipari and for Penny Hardaway, and that theory, that philosophy may have to change just a little bit, especially now that these great elite players, the James Wisemans of the world, Jalen Green this year, would probably go elsewhere. And your point's well taken about this that first class. And you mentioned Mike was involved in that. Obviously, Penny too. But I think you got to give James Wiseman a lot of credit on that one, because I'm not sure Precious and Lester and Boogie, for that matter, don't come if James Wiseman is not hitting up them on a regular basis to come play with him. So that was really a bunch of forces, I thought, at work, and they were excited about playing for Penny and for Mike. I'm not saying they weren't, but I think James, certainly had something to do with that. Before we get to top and not top story, and I'm going to get to the NBA and top story, but the passing today at the age of 85, another incredible life well lived, was the passing today of Johnny Majors, a gentleman that, well, he was just an amazing guy in my mind. They won the national title in 1976 at Pittsburgh. He came and he turned around the Vols. He was a great running back for them in the 50s. Finished up as the runner-up to Paul Hornung as the Heisman Trophy winner in 1956. Went away to Pittsburgh, then came, went to Iowa State, went to Pittsburgh, then came, and he led the Volunteers to 3 SEC titles and ended up winning 185 games. And he was clearly a guy that had charisma. Brett, when I first really got to work with him beyond his coaching times, not just interviewing him, I was doing the NAIA championship football game in Savannah, Tennessee. And he was the analyst. It was the first time, and we worked 2 or 3 of those together. First time he'd ever done it, and there was a banquet the night before the game, and Johnny was a little late in coming, and the whole group, and I'm talking a couple of thousand people, are in this huge auditorium waiting for us to start. We're kind of waiting on Johnny, and Johnny appears, and he comes through a back door, and he's got to walk through the crowd to get to the front table where we're sitting. And I have never seen anything like this. Like, when they saw it was Johnny, there were murmurs in the crowd. And then it started as he was walking. Everybody started to stand. And it was like deity walking right down the middle of the aisle. It was something to behold. And everybody wanted a piece of him, wanted to talk to him, wanted a story. And the guy stayed and obliged everybody. And I think later in his life in Knoxville, I saw him. He was almost like an ambassador. He was still doing it. I think he was really and truly a happy guy the last few years of his life.
Yeah, he was, and a lot more today on Coach Johnny Majors. Great player, not just a good coach, but a great player and legendary Tennessee figure. And we'll have a lot on him tomorrow with former players and Knoxville media as well. This hour brought to you every day by Lexus of Memphis. 2600 Ridgeway, and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Call them at 901-362-8833. Lexus of Memphis offering the Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Great offers on all 2020 models and always on special lease options. If you've ever thought it looked great in a Lexus, well, guess what? Lexus of Memphis thinks you would look great in a Lexus as well. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Stop by today at Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of an all-new 2020 flagship LS500, and you'll be looking and driving great. Lexus of Memphis, the highest standards in the industry. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and that makes for the luxury driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, I'm going to go a little off my routine here, and I'm going to give you what I think is the top story of the day. Is the NBA is probably going to come back beginning July 31st down in Orlando. There will be 22 teams with 8 regular season games taking place. If there is a final series that gets extended to a Game 7, the season could run all the way from July 31st until October 12th. Besides the 16 playoff teams, the other teams that have made it in from the West, New Orleans, Portland, Phoenix, Sacramento, and San Antonio. There's only one other team, an extra team from the 8 in the East that made the playoffs, and that is the Washington Wizards. The format is after they've played these 8 games, these 8 regular season games, we don't know the schedules on that yet. But if you're the 8th seed and you have a lead that is 4 games or better from the 9th seed, you are automatically the 8th seed in the playoffs. If you're under those 4 games, and the Grizzlies are currently at 3.5, then the 9th seed and the 8th seed square off as a playoff play-in to get to the 8th seed, I should say, a play-in series. And for the number 9 seed, it's single elimination. In other words, you beat them in that one first playoff game, play-in game, you're out. But if you're the 8th seed, it's double elimination, so you get 2 chances. And that is how they set it up for both the East and the West. So interesting, different. Try to get Zion in, maybe. I don't know. But it looks like it's going to happen.
I know they definitely are. The Grizzlies got hosed. That's my top story of the day. The NBA plan, it's concrete, starting to set. As much as anything that's in concrete anymore, everything feels pretty fragile and hostile these days. And that's shaky ground to be on for sports or anything else. The Grizzlies will have to win that 8th spot again, and maybe even win it again a third time in Orlando. There's no way anybody else would have been done there's no way New Orleans would have been done like this or Portland done like this. The NBA hosed the Grizzlies.
Well, the Grizzlies only had a 3.5 game lead with the toughest schedule. New Orleans had the easiest. I don't know if it's a total hose job, and they've opened it up for a lot of teams. So we shall see, but at least we know they have a chance.
Not top story of the day.
And that is the coronavirus story. 98 new cases, so we're at 5,412 total with 116 deaths. We've had 3,663 recoveries. That is good. We had 1,600 new tests, which actually was down from the day before, and that came in at 6.1%, which is helpful. There have been almost 80,000 tests now taken in Shelby County, and the positivity rate holds at 6.8% total. Tennessee, we're closing in on 30,000 cases, 381 deaths. Mississippi, 16,300 cases, 782 deaths. And in Arkansas, 7,800 with 136 fatalities. In the United States, 1,000,000, almost 900,000 now, 146,000 recoveries, 108,000 deaths in the United States. We've had almost 19 million tests now taken. And then worldwide, 6.5 million cases, 384,000 deaths. And we have had almost, we're closing in on 3 million recoveries throughout the world. Brett?
My not top story in sports or anything else, you earn respect. And the Grizzlies don't have much in league circles, as evidenced by this playoff kangaroo court. And it's among many of the snubs and the signs that the league doesn't have a lot of regard for Memphis. The whole Brooks parade a few years ago, there's no way if that had been a lot of other teams that would have mushroomed into that kind of humiliation and embarrassment for a team. And I go back several years ago when the league just forgot about having Memphis on the schedule for Martin Luther King Day.
That was terrible. They, I think, have learned their lesson from that one. That feedback on that was terrible.
They don't know Memphis exists.
And those are your top and your not top stories. We have a very busy show coming your way today. Up next from Action News 5 and Tiger Football, Jarvis Greer. I want to talk to him a little bit about the protests, his take on what's going on with the pandemic, along with Tiger Football, and we'll get his sense if he thinks the Grizz were jobbed. Mike DeCourcy coming your way from the Sporting News at 4 o'clock. Rick Horrow on the Business of Sports at 4:30, and then making his debut today for golf for the year, John Goen from Timber Truss. We're not making any picks today, but we'll talk about the season. John Goen is getting set to join us at 5 o'clock. Of course, at 5:50, it will be crunch time. We are underway on this Wednesday, and again, Jarvis Greer is coming your way next.
Sports 56 Mornings with Peter Edmiston and C.J. Hertz. Weekdays from 7 to 10. Only on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7 FM.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Do you have any idea why I never speak the way I am right now? It's because if you're honest, sincere, and knowledgeable, you do not need fast-talking, high-energy, gimmick-promising advertising to get a customer's attention. Speaking of that, how do you think companies can offer huge rebates and giveaways when you use their services or buy their products? By overcharging you in the first place, that's how. Fiveash Roofing doesn't operate that way. It's misleading and dishonest. When I provide a customer with the best products and the best service possible and do it at a fair price, why would I need gimmicks to sell it? Best products, best warranties, and best service possible. That's all we offer. Well, that and financing. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Visit Frontier Western Store this Father's Day for the perfect gifts for Dad. From now until Father's Day, you'll save big on the classic Carhartt K87 short sleeve tee. Get 2 for $25. Frontier carries every color they make, including this year's brand new colors. All sizes are in stock and on sale, small to 4X. All Carhartt Force t-shirts are 25% off too. This hard-working cotton blend wicks away sweat, resists stains, and has a relaxed fit, giving Dad plenty of room to move. Save big on Force at 25% off. Also, all men's pants and jeans, $5 off. Wrangler, Carhartt, and Ariat. Every pair of khakis, jeans, dungarees, and even FR workwear, $5 off. All Carhartt shorts are 25% off too. While you're there, grab Dad some boots. You know he'd love a new pair. Frontier has thousands of boots in stock at amazing everyday low prices. Frontier Western Store, 5880 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, and on the web at frontierwesternstore.com. Family owned and operated since 1967. At First Bank Mortgage, their core purpose is to help you get to a better place. That better place may be a lower monthly payment, that vacation you thought was impossible, or getting into a home with a fenced backyard where your kids can play. To get into your better place, First Bank Mortgage makes decisions right here at home. Dedicated to helping you get to your better place, First Bank Mortgage. Call Daniel Mooney at 901-462-0145 today. NMLS 741022. Equal housing lender.
O'Reilly.
When you need auto parts, O'ReillyAuto.com is just a few clicks away. We offer convenient options for you to get your parts quickly. Order online and pick up for free at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store. We'll even bring it out curbside. Or you can have your parts delivered right to your door with free shipping on most orders over $35. Visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Listen Sundays at 11 a.m. to join Idlewild Presbyterian Church for worship. Idlewild is a PCUSA church located in Midtown Memphis.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stat. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Wolochen and Brett Norsworthy.
Welcome back into the Family Leisure Studios. Jarvis Greer from Action News 5 going to join us in just 1 second. There is one other story that has really come out in about the last 40 minutes or so. Major League Baseball has rejected the players' offer for a 114-game regular season, no additional salary cuts. And it told the union it did not plan to make a counter proposal. MLB told the union it had no interest in extending the season into November. And there certainly doesn't seem to be a whole lot of hope, Brett, on that side.
None. I don't think anybody in baseball wants to play. I really don't. The owners look at it as, no fans, fanless, off-site, or in the ballpark with nobody there, people mad. And the players, they we went to spring training once. We started, we stopped, can't get a deal, don't want to play for half a year. It just scratch baseball off.
I'm beginning to think you're right about that, and I hate it because when when they first wanted to come back, I mean, I thought they were really serious about this. Money wasn't going to matter. We want to play the game. We love the game. And then as soon as the nuts and bolts, I mean,
first and 15.
The owners really didn't want it. Players weren't going to play.
And the
for
shame
half
is
the price.
whenever baseball comes back, we the fan, I won't necessarily, but we the fan, we'll be able to take out our derision, our enmity on that player when they come to bat, or they're announced. I'm talking about home ballparks. We'll be able to take it out on them. When do we ever get to take it out on the owner? I guess the only way you can do that is not buying a ticket.
That's it. That is exactly right. Or don't buy the products that are advertising and paying the owner. That's about the only recourse.
We won't hear those owners parading around talking about how much those franchise values have gone up if they miss this whole year.
I'm not sure that those values will be going up. They could be going down.
That's why I said they won't be parading around.
Right, no doubt. Jarvis Greer from Action News 5, the U of M football analyst as well, sits right next to me in the press box. You think you'll be sitting, Jarvo, right next to me in the press box? Are we going to have football to talk about? Good afternoon.
Hey, Dave, just quick on that baseball. I guess the only one glad they're not playing is Houston because of all the crap that they're going through right now and all that business. They probably don't want to play.
They should want to play because they get money and nobody could boo them unless it was the other team. There's not going to be fans.
Well, that's
and a year off will maybe tamp it down a little.
Oh, exactly. It definitely will.
That's probably so. I don't know, man, if we're going to have it in the fall. Everybody over at the U of M is excited. They're going to go back on the 6th. Bringing the players in, basically for testing and, the big questionnaire for contact tracing and all that stuff. And they probably might, make them run a couple. But they're not going to do that much when they first come back. It's just to see where they are in terms of a baseline. But, as far as actually playing, Shelby County, we just had our worst 2 days in a row since this thing hit in terms of number of cases. And the number of cases doesn't mean you're actually going to get sick, but the more you have, there's more opportunity for somebody in that number, to get felled by this thing. So, it's still up in the air, and with all the unrest and everything going, there's so many more people around. And then, when they first lifted went to phase 1, people just regarded it like, oh, it's over. Let's just go out like we were. And so I don't know. We'll see. Give it a month. As they go through, phase 0 at Memphis and the other schools around the SEC to see, and just everywhere in general to see if this thing keeps rising. Because if it keeps rising, they're going to have to shut it back down again.
You think that activity going up in terms of getting more and more cases, 190, what was it, 195 the other day and 98 yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Can we attribute that to letting our guard down with phase 2 and also the holiday for Memorial Day where people were just trying to return to normalcy maybe too quick?
I think this comes a little bit before, Memorial Day because people are already starting to disregard. What is Dr. Minaj Jain with the Shelby County Health Department?
Mm-hmm.
They were expecting, a little bit of a spike. But this is even more than what they were expecting. And usually they try to over-predict something, just to give them some leeway. So, it's like I don't want to be an alarmist or anything like that, but I'm a big wait-and-see guy on something when it comes to your health. You know what I mean? Both you and me, Dave, we're getting on the other side of this thing, and I don't particularly want to take a chance on it, but, I've been a risk taker most of my life. But it's still only my life. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
That's all. It's pretty much at the end of the day. That's all you got.
Well, you got a bunch of grandkids and kids that still, I know, depend on you, and a wife that loves you and wants to share the end, the last chapters, and hopefully there's many of those with you. I get that.
Well, you make that sound really bad.
Well,
but yeah,
I don't mean to, but I guess my point is, you see it as that dire at this particular point. I'm certainly willing to see how they would, safeguard everybody. I think it'll be an empty stadium. We are close in that press box. I certainly would be willing to be tested if need be before every game, if it's the kind where you can, it's not the really intrusive test. That apparently is a rather painful test.
Like stick it back in your brain.
Yeah. But the other ones,
whatever they do,
the other ones seem to be possible. I certainly would be willing to do that and broadcast the games.
I just want it to be safe. I just want it to be safe. That's why I'm a big believer in let's wait and see a little bit. Let's take it a step at a time and see how it goes. And if because they just extended phase 2 we're in the city. They just extended it to June 16th, I think, because the numbers are not going the way they want them to go. So let's just. I'm excited as anybody. With possibility that sports can come back, Tigers could come back. The NBA has got a pretty solid plan that they're going to present to the owners tomorrow about how they're going to do it down in Orlando. And I'm as much as anybody else want to see this thing get going, but I also want to make sure that everybody's safe and we don't put people in harm's way needlessly.
One of the big wait and sees will be to see if you actually have school on these college campuses.
Yeah. So a lot are going to try. Some are going to start early because they want to get away from, when you get into, November, December, when everybody gets sick anyway from the regular flu. They want to try to get it done and get it out of the way before, that comes down. And that's probably smart. But, putting a whole bunch of people together, because they're all coming in from someplace else, even at Memphis, which is largely a commuter school, you still go back to your regular community when you leave school. It's a gamble, and some people are willing to take it, and some people want to, say, you want to get on that airplane, and go to wherever the Tigers go when we may not even do games on the road. That's a possibility out there. Because
I would suspect if that were the case, we would probably do them in a studio watching on a television, or if we went, we may not be included in the travel party.
The official travel party.
I could tell you that I would be certainly willing to drive to Purdue. That to me is not crazy, and that would be the second game of the year, and then we'd have to look to see, and I got to look at the schedule again to see. But most of those are probably doable when it would come to driving and trying to help out that way.
There's still a lot of stuff to figure out.
Yeah. I think we really are a long way away. I guess
and a positive test does not mean that you're gonna have the full throttle of the disease. Positive test means you tested positive from it. It doesn't mean you're going in the hospital. It doesn't mean you're going to die from it. The hospitalization rate has not spiked, and the fatality rate still starts with a 0 before the decimal point. It's 0 point something.
Yeah, it's all still out there. It's just that when the numbers go up in one, they usually go up in another. The more people you got positive, the more people are going to get sick. And it may not be a large number, but it will be a number. And it's like I don't want to put that bullet in the chamber. It'll get fired.
That's largely inaccurate, Jarvis, because the recovery rate far and away dwarfs the fatality rate.
Oh yeah, for sure. Not everybody's gonna get sick and die, but somebody 3 people down the chain. That's why they're doing these questionnaires when all the athletes at all the schools come back, so they know, okay, who is it that you've been in contact with? Because you may be fine. Person next to you may be fine. The person next to them may be fine, but the person next to that one may not. And so it's just it's a whole it's a guessing game, and you're playing with fire basically, and you just hope you don't get burnt on this. And I'm hoping that everybody's pays attention to what the doctors say and the scientists and the people that do this stuff for a living, and work it out, and we'll get a chance to come back. They came back after Spanish flu. So we could come back after this one some sort of way.
In other news today, and I wanted to talk with you about this. You've lived in Memphis a long time. You were here for the 68 curfew, 78 curfew, and now this one. And the news today is that Derek Govan, the police officer who pressed his knee on George Floyd's neck until he died has now been charged with second-degree murder. I believe the other 3 officers have just been sentenced or charged as well
that just came
with
down.
aiding and abetting second degree. And I'm not exactly sure. I have to read the whole story to clarify exactly what that totally means. I do know what second-degree murder means as compared to third-degree murder, and it is a much more severe punishment and one that is certainly worthy of placing on Govan. I guess my question for you is your sense of what we've seen in Memphis, the peace, maybe because of the curfew, and I know you said you had a story you wanted to tell me.
Yeah, it's I just have to say, growing up black anywhere it can be exhausting, or not can be, is exhausting, because it's like it's something that you have to think about all the time. And there's a lot of white people that say, "Oh, that's all they think about is race." Well, if let's flip the script. If it was happening to you, it would be all you would be thinking about, because it's always in the back of your mind. Something can always happen. I have been stopped several times by the police for no apparent reason other than the fact that, they call it DWB, driving while black. And, when I was younger, riding with friends, going to play basketball, when I was older and, I had a good job and was able to buy a nice car, and just, why are you in this and what is going on? And when we first moved to Cordova in 91, when my son was born, moving from one house to the other, I had some stuff in the back of the truck, got stopped, and said, "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" Well, I said, "Well, I just live right around the corner. I just bought this house," and they detained. I was detained for a while, not just until they finally figured it out, and I was able to go on my way. And it's just those kind of things that are just my white brothers do not have to worry about that kind of stuff. They don't have to think about that. We had to talk. My parents had to talk with the talk in quotation marks with me about how to react if you get stopped by the police. And I had to have that talk with my children, my son and my daughter, because you just never know. And this is a situation that I don't usually talk about. It kind of does and kind of doesn't involve the police. But like shortly after, I played at Memphis and ran around there for a while. And after I graduated, I started here at Channel 5 working, and I bought a house over in Sherwood Forest. And I remember reading on the house thing, because all those houses were built, right around World War II for the veterans coming home. And because it's over there near where the Tigers work out now, that whole complex was basically a veteran convalescence place. And it said in the plat, in the when you buy a house, you got to go through all these plats and all this stuff, and they do all this research. And it said in there in the covenants, this property shall not be sold to any Negroes. It's like,
wow.
What? I mean, it's in there. It's still in there, when we bought the house. Because it's part of history. It's a historical document, but you have to go through that in order to buy the house. Okay, well, that's changed. Good. But, we lived over there for a couple of years while I was working at Channel 5, and it's close to Audubon Park, which is great. I was going over there for a run, and there's a lake in the middle of Audubon Park.
Right.
There used to be a road going through there. Went over there when I was in college a few times. This is a couple of years after that. I was still in kind of good shape, because I've been playing ball all my life. And there were a lot of people in the park. I have to say white people. They were on blankets and out there playing the guitars and had their families. And I was just running by on the road. And I went by a group, and all of a sudden I heard these thump, thump, thumps hitting the ground. And I, looked down. They were bottles flying by. Glass bottles. This is back when they still had glass Coca-Cola bottles and, of course, glass whiskey bottles and all that stuff. And just when I looked down and saw one, boom, I got hit in the back of my left ear. I will never forget this. And, I turned around just in time to see one coming right at my face. Well, I was still fairly quick. I caught it and dropped it. And I was like incredulous. What? And so me back then, I was thought I was big and bad. It was more adrenaline than anything else. I walked back toward them while they were still throwing stuff at me. And I said, "Who threw that?" And they said, "Why are you in this park? What are you doing in here?" Well, I said, "Well, I just live over here. This is a park that I go to. You not in, all kind of words that you can imagine were said." So for some reason, I was able to get out of that situation. I was surrounded for a minute, but I wasn't backing down. I still had that bottle in my hand. And I got out of there and drove. You know where One and Only Barbecue is right now? It used to be where Macy's is, the corner. Yeah.
Right at Perkins and the tracks.
That's correct. That used to be an IHOP. And I went in there. I was able to get in my car. I was bleeding pretty badly, and I went in there and called the police. They let me use the phone, call the police.
Wow.
They got the police, and the police said, "Well, we're not going in there until we get back up." So I had to wait there an hour, basically, because they didn't even want to go in and deal with those people. So we went back in there, and incredibly enough, they were the ones that I saw bottles thrown at me were still in there. And so I picked them out, and I prosecuted. They got 1129. Now, whether they served it, I don't know, but at least they got charged, and they got convicted.
Wow.
But,
I hate
and I just that's the kind of stuff you got to deal with, and you got to think of, and you got to have in the back of your mind.
I really hate that happened to you, Jarvis. I've never heard that story. I've never heard you mention it before. In fact, I've always found you to be about as happy a guy as there is. White, black, yellow, red, doesn't matter. And so I want to ask you this question, and I kind of asked it to Leonard Draper. I can't get in your head. I don't have that terror if I get stopped by a policeman. And I'm lucky, I guess, in that regard, but it's terrible that happens to you. So out of all of this, what would you like to see happen? And today we got the first step. The other three cops got charged. This charge got on shoving got upped to a more severe charge, which is absolutely appropriate. But how do we begin to really make a difference, to get people to be together where you don't have to worry if you get stopped by a policeman, like I don't have to worry?
Well, the whole deal about it is, I went to Catholic school growing up. First was St. Augustine. It was a black Catholic school across from Elmwood Cemetery on Walker. And it eventually closed after my second grade year because of a lack of funding, because it's in a depressed area. And went from there to Immaculate Conception, and I've been going to, basically school with white kids the rest of my life. And you get to kind of see how people think. And this is learned behavior. These kids, the kids, when they come out, kids just play with kids. But it's learned behavior. They learn this stuff from their parents or from whoever as they get older and get bigger. And the only thing I could say is, just for anybody listening out there, just flip the script. Flip the script. People don't think about what they don't need to think about. If it doesn't affect you directly, they don't think about it. And that's a simple thing. But this business here, racism, is like the Rona. It's like this virus. And it doesn't just affect black people, it affects white people too. And they don't even know it, because it is so ingrained. This is 400 years. That's 4 centuries of this. The police department, the original police department, was founded in Boston, I think, somewhere. And the reason for it was to catch runaway slaves. And you can look it up. And that's why the original police department was formed. And when you have things like that going on, they're just so ingrained that you just don't even, they're just there. And somebody said they're like dust in the air. And you don't even think about it. Well, now you have to think about it. Now you're forced to think about it. You should think about it. And you cannot look at it in the eyes of the old. You have to look at it in the eyes of what's actually happened. If you flip the script and this was happening to you, there'd be people screaming bloody murder. And now maybe you understand why people scream bloody murder when this happens. And it continues to happen.
Absolutely. You got 30 seconds because we're out of time, and you know all about that. Do you think the Grizz got the raw end of this deal by the NBA coming back in the way they're doing it?
I don't really like it, but I can't say that I don't understand it. You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
I know they want to get Zion in, and Damian Lillard did his crybaby routine to get to get the Blazers in there, but I don't really like it. I said, okay, you play 8 games and the Grizzlies have a 3.5 game lead. Hey, I'm great. I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? You win 2 games and they cannot catch you, but at least it's something. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. That's all I'll say about that.
All right, my friend, I appreciate your
how you feel about it.
Opening up today. I think a lot like you do. I know my buddy Brett thinks it's a absolute robbery.
Yeah.
They played 65 games.
They did.
I know, man. They did. They played 65.
But
okay,
if they had to play
to
that
72.
schedule on the road the way they were going to have to against New Orleans and Portland, do you really think they were going to that 3.5 game lead was going to hold up?
I don't know. I didn't think they'd beat the Lakers, and I didn't think they'd win at Dallas.
I'm not that worried about Portland. Now, New Orleans is a problem. They don't match up well with them, but they weren't healthy one of those times they played them, or 2 of the times they played them, actually.
I'll tell you what, Brett, you'll know if it's a real robbery, a screw job, as Jarvis just said. You'll know when we see what the schedule for those 8 games is going to be. Jarvo, we got to let you go. We are late for a timeout. Thank you.
Fine.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
All right.
That is the great Jarvis Greer from Action News 5. As he would say, we'll be right back.
Search Sports 56 on Facebook and give us a like. And follow us on Twitter at Sports 56 WHBQ.
Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
Chris Price here for Brian Elder Roofing. The storms we've had over the past several months have been devastating to our communities. The rainy season is ahead. You may have not even noticed the dripping in your attic, water stains throughout your home, or even worse, mold and mildew. Please call Brian Elder Roofing and we will send out our project managers to assess any damage. We will not try to sell you a roof if all you need is a repair. We will measure your roof from outer space. 0% for 60 months, even no payments till 2022 are available with approved credit. If you've noticed missing shingles, water stains, leaks in your roof, call us before you call your insurance company at 867-0303. That's 867-0303, and we will provide a free, thorough inspection of your roof's condition.
Call 867-0303. Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
Blood and plasma donations are more important than ever. People all around the world still depend on the medicine your plasma helps make. That's why Interstate Blood Bank and Plasma Biological Services are open and will remain open for our donors. The United States government has declared blood and plasma donation as a critical infrastructure industry. That means healthy donors are allowed to travel to and from donation centers regardless of any stay-at-home mandates in your area. We need you to keep donating so that we can continue to manufacture these life-saving medicines. We understand that you may be concerned about COVID-19. The health and safety of our donors and our employees remain a top priority. To limit the spread of the virus, we're taking additional measures to ensure our centers are safe and clean. Donating now is more important than ever, but please do not come to the center to donate if you are not feeling well or have a sore throat, fever, cough, or shortness of breath. We are doing our part so that you can do yours. Come donate today at one of our IBBI or PBS locations across the Memphis area.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Wolochin and Brett Norsworthy.
Welcome back in. Wolo and Stats with you all the way until 6 o'clock on this Wednesday. Dwayne's been holding on for quite a bit. He's got a question about COVID-19 testing. I don't know if Brett or I have the answer, but we'll give it a try. Dwayne, go ahead. You're on the First Bank phone line.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Wonderful.
Let me ask you a question. I know everybody's concerned with COVID-19 and the places you go, the things you touch. Why haven't one of these news stations done their own separate individual tests? You know, when you go in a restaurant, you swab this, you test this, you check this, to see what's actually out there. I mean, you don't have to name the places you go. But just an independent, just something to say, okay, we want to see what's out there that scares people, if it's out there at all.
Well,
I mean, they do all kind of tests with these shows. They'll go and buy a hair dryer and, and show how well it dries your hair.
Dwayne, the CDC itself said that contact on surfaces, you will not get it. So a lot of this cleaning has been for naught.
Well,
the CDC said
they pretty much
surfaces.
just said that. They just said that. I mean, when this first came out in March, they told you, hey, wipe down everything. Don't touch nothing. Don't pick
That's
up
right.
a spoon.
Right. Well, now they're basically saying don't touch your hands to your face, even if it's on your hands. Wash your hands, but don't touch your face. And honestly, about the testing, there's only so many tests still to go around. We are really
No. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about just eateries. You go into a
surfaces.
restaurant.
Okay. Doors.
Yeah, the doors, eater tables. Why come one of these news stations hadn't done their own separate test just to see? I mean, you can go in there and do it the right way. You can ask. No, we won't perform a test. We're not going to say where we at. We just want to see if there's anything out here in these different places where people, frequently go to. I mean, it's just something to think about. Because when it first came
Dwayne,
out, they scared you to death.
Have you been wearing a mask when you go out?
Yes. I have to wear it at work.
The New England Journal of Medicine and the World Health Organization said masks were largely just for optics. They did nothing.
I agree. I thought the same thing, but hey, my job made me wear one, so
the law.
That's your job.
And I got news for you. Next week, the law maybe we have to wear a mask too. So
the law may be, but no less than the New England Journal of Medicine and the World Health Organization. I mean, I don't know that Shelby County Health Office that they know more than them, but they can set their local rules. It's like in golf at the golf course. Local rules apply.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I got one more question. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this grid this year. So, people, I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to get shot. I'm just telling you guys right now.
Already have been.
Doing this. We done been shafted. I mean, it's sad when the league tries to build up players instead of letting them walk and earn their way. I mean, come on, man. Everybody wants to get in. You have all 32 teams want to get in.
Let's see what that schedule is. I'm really curious about the 8-game regular schedule before I totally make a judgment. If the schedule's easy and the Grizzlies can actually build on that and have a 4-game lead, they're in anyway.
The schedule's going to pick up where they left off.
Well, they had more than 8 games. And
they're going to play the next 8 on the schedule.
Is that what it is? You're 100% on that?
Mm-hmm. Oh. Well, I'm 100% that's being reported.
What if one of those teams is not amongst the 22?
Then you skip it and go to the next one that is.
We'll have to look at that schedule a little bit later in the program. That'll be fun.
I got it.
Okay, fantastic. Dwayne, thank you. We appreciate that. We're in the Family Leisure studio. They're taking reservations. You make an appointment. You go in. You're going to love what you see. They're not having more than 20 people in the place. Then you make your order. They'll bring it to you curbside or deliver it to you at home. Family Leisure is making it so easy. They want your house, your backyard. They want it to be a staycation place this summer. Complete pool packages starting at under $1,600. The 24-foot pools, $19.99. That's the same price for a 4-person spa. The big swim spas, they start at under $10,000. High-quality swing sets for those of you with little kids at home that you want to make this summer special. They've reduced that from $34.99 to $21.99. That's amazing. Contractless purchasing, the deliveries, and the curbside, like I told you. They're making it easy to make your home a staycation place this summer at Family Leisure. Back with hour number 2 in just a minute, and one of our good friends, one of the more knowledgeable people in sports. That is Mike DeCourcy, and he is next.
Great news, sports fans. The Butcher Shop Steakhouse is now open for dine-in service. Make a reservation and enjoy a mouth-watering steak dinner. Or, if you prefer, take it curbside. In addition to their fantastic steaks, the Butcher Shop Steakhouse has a variety of entrees, including Canadian lobster tail, crab-stuffed shrimp, pan-seared red snapper, and fresh ground steak burger with portobello mushroom sauce. Planning to cook out? The Butcher Shop Steakhouse offers a great selection of hand-cut fresh steaks, lamb chops, Atlantic salmon, and more. Father's Day is coming soon, so make your reservation for dine-in or pre-order for curbside pickup. The Butcher Shop Steakhouse, dine-in, curbside, and delivery. Call us at 757-4244. And visit our website, thebutchershop.com, for menus and more. The Butcher Shop Steakhouse, Walnut Grove and Germantown Parkway.
Anyone who builds, remodels, or repairs for a living, we know the way you work has changed. That's why Lowe's is committing today to build new ways to keep you working tomorrow. We are proud to introduce the new Lowe's for Pros job site, powered by Stream, an augmented video chat tool so you can be there for your customers without actually being there. And the cost to use? Try it free through October 31st at lowesforpros.com/proloyalty. Just one of the reasons why Lowe's is the new home for pros. Services subject to Stream terms. Lowe's loyalty membership required. More terms apply.
Family Leisure's here to make staying at home more enjoyable for you and your family this summer. Complete pool packages starting at $15.99. 24-foot pools only $19.99. 4-person spas starting at $19.99. Swim spas starting at under $10,000. We are offering contactless purchasing, deliveries, and curbside pickup. Give us a call to schedule an appointment or to place an order. Stay safe with Family Leisure.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Welcome in. Beautiful summery night. Made in the 90s today. Big news day, as you all know. The charges on Officer Govan have been up to second degree. The other 3 officers now have been charged with aiding and abetting. And in sports, we have an NBA plan. Some around here don't think it's so fair. We'll see what the way it all plays out. We'll go over that schedule, by the way, in a little bit. Also today, the passing of Johnny Majors, legend as a player, a legend as a coach, national championship at a place where Mike DeCourcy knows well, at Pittsburgh. And we'll use that as the introduction today to Mike DeCourcy. Sad news. And I really don't know if you ever got to know Johnny Majors that much. I know you've covered football, but we know you're a college basketball guy with the Sporting News. But, Mike, did you know Johnny very well?
Well, I wouldn't say I knew him well, but I did get the chance to spend time with him. My first memories, first really impactful memories, and the ones that I really were resonating for me today, were from his time turning around the Pitt program in the early 70s. When I was a kid, I wasn't even in the double digits yet, I don't think. Our Cub Scout troop got the chance to go to a Pitt game, and we went down to Pitt Stadium. And the reason we could do that is because nobody cared and nobody went. They were terrible.
Till the late 70s.
Wear your uniform and get in free.
Yeah, I mean, for 9 years, they were horrendous. And then Johnny came, and everything changed. And obviously, recruiting Tony Dorsett was a big part of that. But you don't win a national championship even with one player as great as Tony was. You don't win a national championship with one player. He did a fabulous job. But really, I don't know that anybody's ever matched what he did at Pitt in turning that program from absolute trash to a national champion in 4 years. And that year in '76, even though they were great, they still had tickets available. And one of the things that Pitt did was put them on a very low discount for high school students, sort of as a recruitment tool for local high school kids. So I saw almost every home game in the '76 season when they won the national championship. And those were wonderful memories for me, including the Pitt Penn State game on Thanksgiving night. My brother and I went, along with some of my older sister was a Penn State student then. My brother and I sat next to each other, and it was pouring rain the entire time. It was a ice-cold rain, and Johnny and his staff made an amazing move, taking Tony Dorsett from the tailback position to the fullback position and changing the way his line set up on the offensive line. And he ran for 173 yards in the second half because of that move. After it was a 7-7 game and a half, I think it wound up 24-7. An amazing tactical decision, and then they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl to win the national championship. And then, guys, when I was moving to Memphis, a little bit before I think I knew 100% sure I was going to go, I went to his introductory press conference and covered that at Pitt when he returned to Pitt after the Tennessee issue. I covered that for Scripps Howard News Service, and my story appeared in the Commercial Appeal. And then when I was officially coming down, John Stamm, my new editor, said, "Hey, why don't you see if the Pitt people will let you spend some time with Johnny, and that can be your first story for us." When I moved there, and so I got an hour with him in his office, and he was absolutely delightful and wonderful to deal with, and we had a great time. And then that became my first byline at the Commercial Appeal, and so it was a wonderful memory. He couldn't have been kinder, and I was really proud to get a chance to write that story in the CA. And then all these coincidences keep popping up. Their first game of the second edition at Pitt was at Southern Miss. So John sent me down to Hattiesburg, and I covered that, and they won comeback. They won 14-10, I believe, and all the boosters were hugging him on the field, and they all thought they had it, the magic was back, and didn't quite turn out that way. But Johnny is still really revered in Pittsburgh. He basically invented modern Pitt football, and although they've not quite ever climbed back to the heights they were in those days, both when they won the championship and immediately after, they wouldn't even really be a football team if it weren't for Johnny Majors.
We had news today on the basketball front, and I want to get into a bunch of stuff with you, if you don't mind, including pandemic and protests and things of that nature. And you are now living in a different part of the country, and we'll catch up with what's happening there. But Mike Miller today decided he was no longer going to be an assistant basketball coach. There was a story published about him becoming an assistant GM in Detroit. I have a sense that he may end up becoming an agent. We shall see. But were you surprised by that move, and how do you think that affects Penny?
I was not surprised. I would not have been surprised if Penny, back in February or January, if Penny had entered the 2020-2021 season without Mike on his bench. I think a lot of us expected that he would be in play for a head coaching opening in college, and I thought, and most of the people that do what I do thought that was the direction he wanted to go. That he wanted to be a college basketball head coach. He's obviously an excellent recruiter. I think that he would have done very well as a head coach in that department. And the pandemic changes a lot of lives, and obviously most unfortunately for those who became ill with it, but for those who did not, it still changed directions. And the fact that very few head coaching openings became available this spring as a result of that probably impacted Mike's decision when it would have meant waiting another year to see what happened then. I think he decided at that point, okay, I want to try something else. And I think he would have been somewhere else next year regardless, but I really think he would have been on a college bench somewhere as a head coach, wherever it might have been. It's hard to say where, because probably it would have been taking over for somebody who got a big job or something like that. But I think he's obviously a gifted guy who has a lot of excellent qualities in the world of basketball, and we'll see what his next move might be. If he decides to go in the front office in Detroit, I think they'll be fortunate to have him. For Penny, I don't know exactly how you find another, ace recruiter, so to speak. It helps to have a guy on your bench who can do that, who is able to go out and get guys to believe in you and believe in your program. And there's not a ton of those guys around. I think there are some out there with Memphis ties, and I think it's important, based on what I've seen over 25 years, 27 years now of knowing the Memphis program. I think it's important that not necessarily that the person be from Memphis, as Mike was not, but know Memphis to be able to do that job effectively for the Tigers.
Do you think the primary component of the next assistant, should it be more of a recruiter or more of a teacher?
Mike obviously had the ability to do both of those things, and so that made him very valuable to the Memphis program. I mean, somebody with his long experience in the game as a player, and then subsequent to that, I think it helped to have someone who could do both. But if it comes down to one or the other, I would say that the most important component, from what I can tell, would be to get someone who is, a guy who can get players, who knows how to, like I said, who knows how to sell what Memphis is as a basketball program, as a city, and what Penny is as a head coach, what the program can do for a young man. We've all three of us have seen, and all the people listening have seen, lives transformed for young men who went through that program over the past 5 decades. And so there a lot of good things can happen to you going through there. But sometimes you have to convince young people, especially those from outside the city, of what it can do for you.
Along those lines, the Penny MO has been, we can make you an NBA guy. We're going to play an NBA structured sort of offense and defense. And, he got Sam Mitchell and then replaced Sam with Cody Toppert, who is an NBA guy. Mike has been an NBA guy. Penny's main connections are NBA guys. Would you go after another NBA type, or would you go with a true college guy?
I think Mike was a unique person in that regard. Had the NBA background, but knew how to recruit. And I don't know whether that came from watching Billy, his experience with his own AAU team. I don't know exactly why he had that, but you're not going to find a ton of guys who have been mostly NBA based who really understand that. It's one of the reasons why when programs have hired NBA based coaches to come and work in college without that experience, without that extensive experience of having worked in college, it's often why those guys don't do well. And so I would say that if you were able to find somebody who had an NBA background who also knew how to recruit, it would be a pretty rare find. You're more likely to find that person as someone who has worked in the college game.
All right. We have lost some people. We mentioned Johnny Majors, Pat Dye a couple of days ago. Earlier in the week, Eddie Sutton, also in his mid-80s, passed away. And I tend to think Eddie Sutton was a pretty special coach. He didn't win the national title, but his teams were unbelievable. What sort of memories do you have of Eddie Sutton?
He was always really kind to me, extremely kind. I didn't know him well when he was at Kentucky. I covered a couple of games at a regional, and that was as close as I got to him, as close as you get when you're sitting in the audience at a press conference and they're up on a dais. But after he got to Oak State, I got to know him reasonably well, and he was an absolute gentleman. At that point, he had gotten past most of his demons, and had really, put together his life in a wonderful way. And he had just had a really gentle touch. Even then, he was probably, I'm going to guess, in his 60s at that point. Right. But he felt like he had that grandfatherly touch even then. Whether or not he was officially a grandfather at that point, I can't remember. But he had that with me, and gosh, I was probably in my 30s or 40s. But it just made you feel that way. And I always enjoyed being around him. Very impressed by what he was able to do at Oak State. if you talk to Doug Gottlieb, a friend of mine now, I mean, he absolutely reveres Eddie. I mean, just couldn't say enough nice things about him.
Doug Gottlieb does. Mike, the NBA plan rolled out today, and you almost took issue with it as much as I did on some of the incentives, and I use that term very loosely. It was almost like the NFL, what they were trying to do a week or so ago on some crazy rule changes, and you didn't like those. Some of the changes include incentivizing for higher-seeded teams that they be able to transport their actual hardwood court from home arenas to Orlando, higher-seeded team receiving an extra coach's challenge, higher-seeded team being allowed to designate one player to be able to be whistled for 7 fouls instead of 6 before fouling out. Why don't we just put up the arcade at the county fair?
Are those things actually going to happen, or are they just things that they talked about as possibilities?
Being discussed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm very hopeful
that
they'll get to reality. Look, I understand that teams are making sacrifices in terms of the kinds of advantages that they ordinarily would have if they were able to play in home arenas with lots of fans. I get that's a huge disadvantage to them now relative to that. I saw in the Bundesliga last week in Germany soccer, Borussia Dortmund played against Bayern Munich in a game that really essentially decided the title race, whether there was going to be one. If Bayern won, it was over, and if Dortmund won, they were right there. And Dortmund has a fabulous home crowd advantage, as good as there is in any sport. And in this game, there's nobody there, and so it made a difference. And that's a shame, but it's a sport. I mean, you still have to kick the ball in the goal, and in basketball, you still have to put the ball in the hoop, whether there's fans yelling or not. And in the NCAAs, sometimes you might have a crowd advantage if you're a team, and sometimes you might not. And sometimes, as you guys have seen on occasion, there might not be that many people even in the stands for an NCAA tournament game. But you play because you play the game. It's hoop. It's not about, you don't need to create some big advantage for the LA Lakers right now because they earned it with they got the advantage. They got Anthony Davis and LeBron James. That's the game.
Yeah.
Play ball and go from there.
I'm with you. I heard you did not care at all for doing away with onside kicks and going 4th and 15, and I would be tempted to, being usually old school, agree with you. But since the rules have been watered down, and they needed to be because of health reasons, the odds of you getting an onside kick are pretty remote, about as remote as a 4th and 15. So why are you so against that particular strategy?
Well, my first response to that is, what happened to 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down? How are we on 4th down already? Why do you have to get 15 yards?
Exactly.
It's such a sham. It's an absolutely invented play. Look, here's a great solution. If you want to have to avoid being in the situation where you need an onside kick, don't get behind. And it's really simple. Don't be behind.
Play ball.
You be ahead. I don't think it's fair or reasonable to the team that spends 58 minutes getting ahead to force them to have to defend that 4th and 15 play, which you are much more likely, even in the old scenario of the onside kick, back when you could make it bounce and you could run and hit people and all that stuff. You're much more likely to hit 4th and 15 than you would be to recover an onside kick. You just would need one guy to get open. It's the same problem I have with the NBA's advance the ball timeout rule.
I was just going to mention that because that is the same way. It's a rule that allows you the opportunity, maybe in a trumped up sort of way, but a way to get back in the game.
Yeah, you're a Bulls fan, I believe, and so I'm sure that the Jordan shot over Elo really means something to you.
Sure,
but that wasn't that great a play. I mean, it was one screen.
Right.
Michael catches the ball, he shoots it. Wow, it wasn't that hard to do. What Christian Laettner did to Kentucky really took a ton of timing and skill and putting away pressure and all of that, and it was and plus the pass from Grant Hill. That was something you should have to do that if you're behind with 2.1 seconds left. You should have to go 94 feet. That's the game. The game isn't you get 7 timeouts and, oh, by the way, don't forget to keep one in case we're behind. That's ridiculous. It's a contrivance. The best sports don't have contrivances. I don't want to be down to only the NHL regulation and soccer as having no contrivances in their game. NFL doesn't have them now. The NHL and soccer do not have them. Baseball has the DH. NBA has that timeout rule. Don't mess with your rules. The games are great. You have millions and millions and millions of fans. You don't need to mess up your game to get another 2 or 3. We're here. We're not going anywhere. Don't junk up the game.
But by the way, anytime Jordan was against Elo in any situation, that was going to be easy for Michael Jordan.
You got a good point.
I do want to ask you how you and Deb are doing. I know you live in Indy. How are you dealing with pandemic and working from home and not getting to see games? I know these kinds of conversations are certainly fun. And I'd love your take on what's going on in America right now with the protests and sometimes, unfortunately, the violence and curfews. We've had a curfew the last 2 nights in Memphis, and fortunately, everybody has been, for the most part, incredibly respectful of that curfew.
Yeah, we're fine. It's been really nice having her around as I've worked from home. It's almost unfair, that I get to be with her all day while there's all this while the pandemic was happening and terrible things were happening. I get the treat of having her around. It does. I'm very blessed and fortunate in that regard. As to what happened last week with the death of George Floyd, it was a terrible thing and should never have happened, and really incomprehensible how it did. And I think that the protest movement has been welcome, and it's very unfortunate that we're finally seem to be getting some real momentum in that regard because of what happened. It would obviously have been better if we could have had that movement without the passing of George Floyd. But I think it's never a good thing to have violence and looting and those sorts of things. No one's going to endorse that. But the peaceful protests that have happened through so many cities around the country, I think they are a step in the right direction. Now we need to see real action in various communities in terms of trying to improve training and tactics and a better relationship between the police in certain cities with certain communities. And if we can see that come as a result of all this, it will be a good outcome of a awful situation.
I agree. I've missed our conversations. I can't wait for the basketball season to begin again. Last thing, we're going to have a season? You think they're going to play?
Yeah, I do. I for one, the report I saw last night, and I retweeted it, of Dr. Fauci supposedly saying he believes that there will be a vaccine by January and that will be widely available. I think that would be huge relative to the basketball season. I think the football season coming off well is very important to the basketball season. I don't have much doubt they're going to play football. I've talked to a couple ADs in the last few weeks, been on multiple Zoom type calls, teleconferences, whatever, to discuss it. And every indication is that's the direction we're going, because the reality is, irregardless of football, the colleges need to be open. I mean, they know they need to be open.
Absolutely.
And they will make some accommodations here and there, but by and large, they need to be open. And so they're trying to find ways to do that and to do it well, including some sliding of academic calendar, so it starts a little earlier in August, ends at Thanksgiving. Nobody comes back until January or February. That sort of thing. They're really, I think, have come up with some really good ideas relative to that. And my position has always been, guys, that if we have students on campus, we're going to have intercollegiate athletics, because there wouldn't be any excuse to have students in class but tell them that they can't do these other things that they love and need so much.
I think they're going to make every effort for sure, whether that's hybrid classes or full classes or coming in August like Notre Dame and now Rhodes and CBU, by the way, locally the same thing. So I hope this whole thing does go without a hitch. Mike, it's been a great pleasure, and we look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Absolutely, guys. You're the best. We'll look forward to it.
Thank you. That is Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. Our title sponsor for this hour of the program is Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch, and, of course, Genesis in Olive Branch, all in the same building. It's getting bigger, by the way, and getting prettier, and they've got a lot of new cars on the lot. They've got my Genesis G70. They've got Hyundai Santa Fe's. They've got Elantras. They've got Velosters. They've got it all. And they're going to have a Genesis little SUV coming out soon. I can't wait for that to occur. And I'll tell you, I always talk about Homer and Genesis of Olive Branch being the bar for the way car business should be done, because they always come up with ideas that make it easier for you, more affordable for you, and want to excite you. How about 0% financing for 84 months? They're the first ones in the market I saw do it. Now they will add this 120 days to make the first payment on select models. That's 4 months. Some deals, 3 months. They're trying to make it easy. They know pandemic and there's some shortage of cash, but you could be pretty darn healthy in 3 or 4 months. You don't need to make your first car payment until then. And you know how durable this technology is. So high performance, so safe in the way it's structured, but durable, where you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty with every new car. Wow. All you got to do is get there, and it's easy. You get on Lamar. It's Highway 78 past State Road, and the very first exit's Craft Road. Turn left. Go see Chris True and all the game. They've been together forever because they're so good at what they do at Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. Time to chat with our professor from Harvard. That's Rick Horrow. He is next.
Spend your lunch with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy on Sports 56 middays, delivered by FedEx. Weekdays from 10 to 1 on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Can anyone explain to me why anyone would care how I measure your roof? We have all heard about measuring your roof from outer space. Well, to be honest, there are aerial pictures that are taken every 4 years that can be used to measure a building, but it's not from outer space. Besides, no one, and I mean no one, can tell you what's wrong with your roof or even if you need one by using pictures that might be 4 years old. If you would rather do business with a family-owned and operated business with a lifelong tie to Memphis that refuses to mislead or use gimmicks, please give me a call. Best products, best warranties, and the best customer service we know how to provide. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Do you know one of the best things you can do for your employees or family's health? Provide Arctic Clear bottled water. Arctic Clear bottled water is your locally owned and operated bottled water provider. Arctic Clear is 100% natural spring water with free delivery and setup, dependable service, and no long-term contracts. What an easy choice. Call Jeff Manus today, 901-382-2363, or visit arctic-clear.com. Arctic Clear bottled water. Call now, 382-2363. That's 382-2363.
With thousands of locally owned Napa stores across the nation, chances are that wherever you call home, we do too. So as America starts opening back up for business, and as more of us start getting back out there again, we'll be in big cities, small towns, and everywhere in between, doing what we've always done to help keep our local communities moving forward. So whether you stop by a Napa Auto Parts store, Auto Care Center, or visit us at Napa online, you can count on Napa know-how.
Eat well and stay healthy with Sweetgrass Next Door's to-go and delivery service. From shrimp and grits to pork chops to chocolate chip cookies and more, feed your need. Located in the heart of Cooper Young Midtown, Sweetgrass Next Door makes for an easy to-go, pickup, and delivers to all of Midtown, most of downtown, and even East Memphis locations. For more information, visit online sweetgrassmemphis.com or call 901-278-0278 to place your order today.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Welcome in on a very, very busy day. The NBA coming back. 22 teams, 8 regular season games, then a play-in. That's the big news. Mike Miller leaving the University of Memphis. A very nice tweet on his way out the door. But Penny will be looking for another assistant. And we'll see how quickly he acts. Last time he did that, he lost Sam Mitchell, and he came up with Cody Toppert. That was a very, very excellent choice, I think. And we'll see what Penny does for sure. Johnny Majors passing away today at the age of 85, the great Tennessee running back and the coach who was at Iowa State, Tennessee for all those years, 3 SEC titles and a national championship with the University of Pittsburgh. We always love chatting Wednesday afternoons with our friend Rick Horrow, our professor of business from Harvard, also a proud member of the NBC family of stations. Rick, how are you holding up today? Everything good in your life?
No.
Yeah.
What kind of question is that? I've got about 6 inches of water. I've got fish swimming in my yard.
What?
We did that last week. I named the fish.
Oh yeah.
There's a cheater who tried to get back in my overflowed pond, and he got caught. So we're calling him Lance. But the other ones are just a prehistoric fish I've basically never seen before. We've had monsoon-type rains here, and it's affected the golf game, which is really important. It affects tomorrow's golf game, and my car is like stuck in a garage because you can't. What happens if you raise the garage door and the water is higher on the other side than it is inside the garage? Which way does the water fall out?
I wouldn't open
it's not
the door.
Good.
Don't
right.
open the
That's
door.
very well done. So I'm not. That's
Rick,
one of those things where you can't say, "Whoops, I made a mistake. Let me close it." So
you need to tell some of those fish to. You need to tell some of those fish to enter the transfer portal.
Well, they need to enter some portal, right? So I got 6 of them, and I've named them. I've got LeBron. Then I've paid my respects. There's a kind of a slow-moving one. His name is Shula. And then there is Nomar, Giannis, and we've named 2 fish who don't play by the rules. One is Pete, after Rose, and one is Lance, after Armstrong. So I will give you the travails of those, whether you want to or not. So what's going on today?
Baseball may not play at all this year by the rules or no.
Yeah.
They truly twiddle while the world burns.
Yeah, well, see, the thing about that is that there are legitimate economic interests that you deal with in a long-term basis with some visionaries, but not when you have a unique opportunity to show how flexible you are with a TV contract for 2022 in hand. They should have looked around and realized we're in better shape than most of the other leagues because we've got a guaranteed TV contract that starts in 2 years, and it's paying 60% more than the current one. So let's just get there. And if we get there with our current deal, we're still going to have some money because the fans aren't needed to make the TV deal go. We'll just put all the games on television. But yet the players feel like it's a backhanded way to get a salary cap done, and the owners feel like the players are trying to stick it to them. And neither one is right. But at the end of the day, the owners have to run and open a business. It's like they're opening their offices for a year. They've got to make sure the numbers pencil out. Many of the owners are saying, we're going to lose less money if we just close down and forget it. And that's what they're fighting. And the players have not made it any easier.
Rick, why is it this ownership and this player base just don't trust each other. Why is it worse in this league and in this setup than all the other major leagues?
Well, it was personalities. Don Fehr, who's now hockey, left his mark on the baseball situation, and he and Bud Selig got into it. And, you've had labor peace for a long time, which is why this wasn't predicted. But then again, basketball, hockey, both have a situation where they had to give, both of them did, in order to have plans that they have on the table, respectively. And they were 80% through the season. Maybe that was the difference. This one, the baseball season hadn't started yet. There were some promises made, but we know the world is different in March than it is in May and June. And at the end of the day, it's caused some real problems. I'm not ready to raise the white flag yet, by the way, but ask me next week.
Okay.
I'm going to find the white flag in my closet, put it that way.
Well, I am really discouraged because today they basically came right back and said, we don't accept the union's proposal, and therefore it's balls in your court. Accept the 50 games and the prorated money, and that's it. And it sure doesn't look good to me. Although June, as you like to say, the great sports regathering is beginning. We should see golf at the Schwab starting on June the 11th. It looks like the NBA's got a plan. It looks like the NHL's got a plan. You think we'll see those three things happen?
And Bundesliga already there, and
It's
La
done,
Liga
yeah.
already there, and Premier League and Serie A in soccer already there. The MLS makes a plan to be back at the end of July for their tournament. Even women's soccer has a super tournament. NASCAR, the IndyCar industry coming back this weekend for the first time. So, it's time for sports to go from we don't know when we're coming back to complete oversaturation. And I'm looking forward, and I'm going to laugh, and you guys are too, in a couple of months where some Yahoo is going to call and complain. He said, there's too much sports on TV. I don't know what to watch. I think in September, maybe October, it's a Wednesday at 1 o'clock. We're going to see NBA playoff games, see NHL games in the afternoon. We're going to see NASCAR, weekday NASCAR races. We're going to see golf tournaments, and on and on and on, because everybody wants to minimize their losses with fanless games on television.
Will the ratings matter that much, Rick, with everything going on at once?
Well, the ratings will be a little less because everybody cuts into everybody else. But when you think about it, this is compared to a starved country with nothing live between March basically and the middle to the end of June. So even if everybody cuts into everybody else, I think the net number of people watching will be at an all-time high.
All right, so if we've lost half of March, all of April, all of May, all of June, or most of June anyway, that's 4 months, let's say. What are the losses to the networks in something like this?
Well, the networks are, it's interesting. They make up a lot of this because of the political ads in funny season. I wrote that the ads are up about 12% for all the politics, which we're not seeing yet, but they're certainly buying more time. Aren't we excited? Because we get to see, starting next month, nonstop Trump-Biden ads for president. I'll just leave it at that. And then we see a lot of other stuff that's going on because more people are watching, Netflix, obviously, and otherwise. So the networks are taking a hit because they don't have that much live program. But when you think about talking to executives, Mark Lazarus, who I talked to at NBC and otherwise, and they said they were told, look, you're shutting down for 4 months, no live sports. Are you going to survive? And you look back 4 months later, Last Dance, the golf tournament, the match, made-for-TV stuff, some brilliantly done reruns of things, not everything. A lot of it was, if I see one more horse game, I'm going to shoot myself and everybody else around me. And so there are some mistakes, but net, the networks will come out of this fairly well.
What about the growth of Netflix? What's the percentage of their increase of subscriptions?
Well, wait for the public offer. Go buy Netflix. Oh, wait, I'm giving you advice that's about 4 weeks too late. Forget it. It's story of my life. The Netflix, DirecTV, everything related to media has been much better than anybody expected. Obviously, people are watching, will continue to watch, and some will say that when you get to go back to stadiums, whenever that is, there will still be people who are uncomfortable about that, and they'll be watching more and more, and some more appointment viewing. So I think there is a permanent increase and a permanent change, not to the way it is now, but over the long term, it's really going to be better than it ever has been.
Rick, do you think NFL preseason games happen, and can they be used as a laboratory for experimentation on seating and social distancing?
Yeah, well, that's a good point, and they better be, and there will be, my prediction, probably 1-1, not 2-2. And so the idea of the Dolphins, out front with their new plan that was announced 3 weeks ago, and then everybody seems to be copying it section by section, every third seat, different concession areas between ordering and picking it up. Dolphins also are doing a kind of a drive-by content opportunity so people can use it as a big drive-in theater and look at the highlights of games and look at movies. There are 300 drive-in theaters that have been converted to movie theaters now because of social distancing. So the broad answer is yes, it'll be a laboratory. And specifically for my friends at the Dolphins, if they're going to show Dolphin highlight content, there's not a lot recently, so you better be careful of what you show. Sorry, never mind.
While we're talking NFL, your notes is always very interesting, thought-provoking, and we've already sort of brought this up earlier in the week, but it's worth bringing back for your opinion, and that is amidst the protests and the riots that are going on, Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, has called for an urgent need for action. And you say statements are one thing, action is another, and maybe the first thing he should do is find a way to bring Colin Kaepernick back into the league as a player, special advisor, community ambassador, or something of that nature. Do you believe he'll do that?
I don't know. It's a trial balloon. There are some people who have called kind of privately and said, why don't you float that? And I'm not, the guy that floats stuff for people to react to, but listen, there's more social consciousness now. President Obama just gave a stirring half hour. Every time you hear him, regardless of whether you like him or not, he's a great orator. And one of the things that has happened is that you realize sports is a very important social platform, especially for people who watch social media and don't. It's not live sports is not as important as the message that's being sent. So remember, during the collective bargaining negotiations, there were a lot of discussions about a social progress fund, bail reform, juvenile justice. Malcolm Jenkins and others were instrumental in a big fund, and there is that fund. If the NFL touted it right now, it would be patting on the back, so it's self-serving. But that exists today, and it didn't exist a few years ago. And I'm not saying that's enough. I'm just saying it's a step in the right direction.
How injured has Drew Brees done himself on his stance on his view of disrespecting the flag?
Well, he's an interesting personality. Let me just put it that way. And I know you don't always have to conform to what the masses want you to say, but there are some times where you don't say the thing that everybody wants to hear. So you admire Drew Brees' right to say whatever he wants to, but it's not my position.
I'm with you, but that is the video. Just like Kaepernick took the position, which was unpopular at the time, Brees might be doing the exact same thing. But that's why this is America. We get our opinion,
and that's why I said that first.
Yeah,
which is I don't have to like him on social media. I don't like him from the day that the Dolphins decided to take Dante Culpepper because they thought Drew Brees was injured. But that's on the field stuff. So my point is that athletes as role models. You love it or you hate it, but they're certainly more visible than almost anybody else in society, and that becomes something that you got to be able to take seriously.
He is Rick Horrow, our business professor from Harvard, and of course with the NBC family of stations. I hope you get this water thing fixed because I'm really worried. I actually was going to, I don't think they have it in Miami, but Conway Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electric, that is one of our sponsors, man, they would be right up your alley.
That would be a very nice thing to do if you're within the 3 seconds that the water is running the wrong way when you put the garage door up. And I've got to herd Lance back to the pond because it's very difficult for him to swim with that needle in his back.
Does he cuss where you are like he does on the
I'll tell you what, that was very disappointing, by the way. It's enough self-serving stuff for an hour and a half, 2 hours. That's all I got to say.
There you go. Rick, thank you. Be
All
well.
right, man.
We'll talk to you
See you
next
next week.
Yeah. Rick Oro, our professor. He is brought to you by Conway. Conway Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electric. And also the tankless. How old is your hot water heater? With most water heaters in the Mid-South located in the attic, the worst day you can replace your water heater is one day too late. It means you'll be like Rick. Water problems everywhere. So now may be the time for you to get a tankless. It's the technology that never runs out of hot water. Plus, these energy-saving models only heat the water you use, so you're saving money on your gas bill absolutely every month. Now, most 10-year-old water heaters, they were about 65% efficient when they were new, and they're not even near that now. A tankless, well, that's up to 98% efficient. Plus, right now, with Conway, you can get a tankless for as low as $79 a month, or he'll give you $300 for the old tank water heater. And you never have to worry about that tank bursting in your attic because there is no tank. All you got to do is make the call, 384-3511. You're going to get the Conway service. Over 8,000 five-star reviews on Google. It's the guarantee. You're going to love what you get if you call 384-3511. Conway Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electric. Back in a minute. This is Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Want to get your voice heard? Hit us up on the First Bank phone line or First Bank text line.
Dishes for hours.
There's nothing like making a meal with every pot and pan you own.
Hours of dishes.
Savor every bite of this meal, Chef, because for dessert, you'll be having
So many dishes.
Ditch the dishes and get Taco Bell's $5 Chalupa Cravings Box instead. A Chalupa Supreme beefy 5-layer burrito, crunchy taco, cinnamon twist, and a medium drink for only $5. Order ahead and get yours at Taco Bell's contactless drive-thru. At participating locations for a limited time. Prices may vary. Tax extra. Drinks exclude freezes.
The landscape is so beautiful at Town Village Audubon Park. Nestled in the heart of East Memphis, located corner of Park and Cherry, is a beautiful residential neighborhood. Looking for a great place to retire, but you still have a very active lifestyle? Then visit Town Village. Only requirements that you're 55 plus. Prices per month starting at $24.50. The Gourmet Chef welcomes you to visit our restaurant and bistro. Package includes 3 complimentary meals per day, maid service, free local transportation, monthly coffee club, themed dinner parties, lots of fun. Visit us and call Daniel or Bo at Town Village Audubon Park at 901-374-7342. There's no place like home. Town Village Audubon Park.
Chris Price here for Brian Elder Roofing. The storms we've had over the past several months have been devastating to our communities. The rainy season is ahead. You may have not even noticed the dripping in your attic, water stains throughout your home, or even worse, mold and mildew. Please call Brian Elder Roofing and we will send out our project managers to assess any damage. We will not try to sell you a roof if all you need is a repair. We will measure your roof from outer space. 0% for 60 months, even no payments till 2022 are available with approved credit. If you've noticed missing shingles, water stains, leaks in your roof, call us before you call your insurance company at 867-0303. That's 867-0303, and we will provide a free, thorough inspection of your roof's condition.
Call 867-0303. Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Ocean and Brett Norsworthy.
Coming up, top of the hour, I can't wait. John Gowen. Not exactly back in the house, but we'll be talking golf. It'll be the first of many, many visits as long as they keep playing golf. And I just want to sort of talk a little bit about the business of golf. We had John on, what was it, Brett? 4 or 5 weeks ago when the whole thing began, and they were doing one carts and no flags and things of that nature, and I know his business has been good, so we'll get into that a little bit, as well as what we can expect with the Schwab, if it'll really happen, and what we might see here the last week of July, first week of August, as they contemplate exactly how they're going to run the WGC this year.
And the NBA plan is for teams to continue their schedule as planned with whatever, where, or against whomever. It won't be where. We know where it'll be at the Biosphere over the next 8 games. If you're scheduled to play like the Hawks, Bulls, Pistons, it moves on to the next game on the schedule according to sources telling Yahoo Sports. The Grizzlies' next and final 8 games, they are Portland, Utah, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, New Orleans back-to-back, and Boston.
Portland, Utah, Oak City's in the mix.
Portland, Utah, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, New Orleans twice, and Boston.
Wow.
Might not win one of those. And if you don't, then you have no leg to stand on.
Right.
But as Mike DeCourcy said about the rules changes, and I'm quoting him, it's fair and reasonable for a team that's done the work to be rewarded for it. The Grizzlies are not being rewarded for the work that they put in over 65 games. They could even come up a little shy and still have to go into the round robin, into an extra layer of playoffs. Mine would be, but I know what they're trying to do, and I know why they're trying to do it. They want people to watch, and that I guess they have calculated that more will watch Zion Williamson than they will Jaren Jackson or Ja Morant. But if the Grizzlies were ahead after one game at the end of that, they should be declared the 8th seed. The games would be over. But we're off on just the biggest tangents out there in sports. And I think it's some of the reason why the both sides in baseball have dug in.
So this bothers you more that the 8 and the 9 on both sides, the East and the West, are going to have to play a play-in, which is weighted toward the 8.
I would say the very same thing if the Grizzlies, if it was redounding to their benefit. I would not say one paragraph, one sentence, one semicolon any differently.
But that's what
I don't really care.
Bothers you more than the inclusion of the other teams for these final 8 games.
I think at the end of the 8 games, the seed should be set.
I can hear that
the higher seeded team. The higher seeded team possibly being awarded the first possession of the second and third, fourth quarters following the traditional jump ball to begin the game. The higher seed being allowed to designate one player to be able to be whistled for 7 fouls instead of 6 before fouling out. Why don't we just turn the whole NBA into Peach Jam or the Bluff City Classic?
I really don't know that will be the case. I can't imagine they're going to give one player 7 fouls. On what is designated the home team, is that what you're saying? I doubt that will occur.
Well, I can't imagine either day, but there's been a lot over the last 83 days. I couldn't imagine.
Well, if that happens, I think it does become a joke. This particular setup, I can buy your argument that if you win and you win by a game and you're the 8th seed, you should be in. That I could understand. I don't have so much of a problem with this. Because you're not playing all 17 games. You're only playing not even half of them. This does seem to even things up. And frankly, it gives the Grizzlies, even if they slip to 9, a chance to still be in it. And it does make for some more intrigue.
If they slip to 9,
in those 8
they
games.
should be out.
Well, but it gives you another chance, and it's really more intrigue, and I think that's what they're trying to build up. Not necessarily just
I know
to
what
get
they're trying to
New
do.
Orleans in, but I think it's another little tangent to make you want to watch more.
We'll see. Most people are just so starved for sports that we'll watch about anything.
I don't know what New Orleans or what Portland's schedules are like. We know there's 3 games between the two teams, between Memphis
but,
and those,
we went
two.
for so long here that, and Mike Conley and Mark Gasol, real or perceived, but here are a lot of people talking about a basketball grievance that seems very pale in comparison to our broader picture of grievances. But so many people here thought they never got the veteran call, and a lot of it was their personalities. They weren't always having their palms up at the referee like Tim Duncan on every single call, begging for calls. Mike Conley was never demonstrative. He was never prone to technicals or lashing out at the referees. So from that right through, I mentioned the Brooks trade, to let that become such a humiliation for a franchise, there's no way that should have ever risen to that level. And then, I mentioned the scheduling several years ago, down to this. I just think the NBA a lot of times kick sand in Memphis's face, because I don't think there's a lot of clout with the league office among the players in the front office of the Grizzlies.
Well, I think that clout would begin, frankly, not with the players, but with the owner. And that's 2 hours in the books. When we come back, we do talk golf with John Goen. We'll update you at 5:30 on all the stories of the day. There are many. And we'll take your thoughts and your texts, 67129, or on the First Bank phone line at 360-8255. This is Sports Time with Wolo and Stats.
Gateway Tire and Service Centers has a beautiful new state-of-the-art location at 5275 Summer Avenue. And for the entire month of June, the new location on Summer has a great Father's Day special. Buy 3 tires and get the 4th at no charge. Visit the new Gateway Tire and Service Center with 28 bays for quick service, super safe with curbside service or lounge seating 6 feet apart. Check out gatewaytireservice.com for coupons too. The new Gateway Tire and Service Center, 5275 Summer Avenue. Call Matt for details. 901-683-8335.
Hi, this is John Conway with Conway Services. How old is your water heater? With most of the water heaters in the Mid-South located in the attic, the worst day you can replace your water heater is one day too late. It may be time for a tankless water heater from Conway Services that never runs out of hot water. Plus, these energy-saving models only heat the water you use, saving you money on your gas bill every month. Most 10-year-old water heaters were about 65% efficient when they were new, compared to a tankless water heater from Conway Services is up to 98% efficient. Plus, right now, get your tankless water heater from Conway Services for as low as $79 per month, or I'll give you $300 for that old tanked water heater. And no more worrying about that tank bursting in your attic either. And with over 8,000 5-star reviews, you know Google guaranteed Conway Services will be providing that award-winning service every time. So call Conway Services, the Mid-South's premier tankless water heater professionals at 384-3511. And the first 30 callers with a 10-year-old water heater will come out and inspect it absolutely free.
Call 384-3511. Conway Services. Call Conway today.
Jay Farner here, CEO of Rocket Mortgage. Making the right financial decisions has never been more important. When you turn to Rocket Mortgage, we can help guide you to those right decisions now, when they matter most. Mortgage rates are near historic lows, so now is a great time to call 8338-ROCKET. And if you need some extra money, a cash-out refinance could give you that financial boost you're looking for. Call today at 8338-ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com to learn more.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis. Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
We talk big picture golf with John Goen from Timber Trust Golf down in Olive Branch. We look forward to next Wednesday at 4 o'clock, and John will be with us at 4 o'clock most Wednesdays the rest of the way through all the golf season, and it's some fits and starts with it. We'll take a little break in there in football and finish the year with the Masters where we usually start, but he'll be with us starting next week at 4 o'clock for golf talk and golf picks. John Gowen, he's next after I tell you about DeSoto Auto Sales, the title sponsor of this hour, down on Goodman Road in DeSoto County, 5704 Goodman Road. Go online and check out the many Happy Please referrals at DeSotoAutoSales.com. 662-890-7184. All the cars at DeSoto Auto Sales test-driven, checked out bumper to bumper. Unlimited inventory, every make, every model. If it's not on the lot, they'll go out and find it for you. No shortcuts taken at DeSoto Auto Sales, where you're treated like family by kind, courteous employees, laid-back atmosphere, no high-pressure sales, but they want you to have the ultimate car experience. They care about your time. They know we're living in a world today that time matters. You can find the car that you want, test drive it, credit approved, paperwork completed, all in about 45 minutes, in time to do it over your lunch hour or immediately after work or bright and early on a Saturday morning at DeSoto Auto Sales at 5704 Goodman Road, DeSotoAutoSales.com. Come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience with the good people at DeSoto Auto Sales.
John Gowen has been a busy man. Last time I saw him, he was all over the place because there were so many people at his golf course, Timber Truss, and it is true. This pandemic has been horrible. We have all these unemployed people in America and even throughout Shelby County. But one area of business that has prospered has really been golf courses. And John joins us now. How are you doing? And talk a little bit about that particular fact. And it is a fact that the golf business has been up, because I think it is a surprise to everybody.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. Wolo Stats. It has been, been very interesting from our standpoint. I think that, clearly it's been great to kind of be that escape, that outlet for people to be able to get outside, enjoy the outdoors in a safe environment. We did everything we were needing to do to provide, social distancing, and we were spacing out tee times, and we were doing single rider golf carts, and again, just trying to create some sort of normalcy in what has been going on. And I think that's what a lot of people looked at, from our standpoint and from everybody else. And so, it has definitely been great. For so many years, probably a decade at least or so now, golf has been viewed fairly negatively, obviously with Tiger's ebbs and flows. I mean, the reputation of golf has definitely kind of suffered over the last decade or so. Obviously, with all the corporate entertainment that used to happen and everything else, the regulations and things. I mean, golf has definitely been declining from that perspective, but in particular, I'm very, very hopeful from what we have seen, from what I think almost every golf course in this area has seen, and that is that, I think it's reintroduced folks to being able to get outside and enjoy themselves. And yes, it's frustrating, but you have that social dynamic with the people that you ultimately want to spend time with. And that's what I really, truly feel like is happening is that, we do provide that one thing, that normalcy. I mean, we're having to stream church services, and we're having to make appointments to go get change at the bank, and we're wearing face masks to go shopping and all of these things. But the one place that you can go is to a golf course and be with your friends and have a few beers and enjoy 4 hours with each other or less, and just have something in life that provides a little bit of stress relief, and I think that's been great from everybody's perspective that's involved in the golf business.
John, you're right, and you see it with families. I think it is one of the great family outing sports that participatory that's ever been created. It's hard for a family to go out and play pickup basketball. It's hard for a family to go out and maybe play a wood bat real baseball game. Not many families going out and strapping on the shoulder pads, but you can go to the golf course together as a family you've taken all the precautions. Don't touch the rakes, don't touch the pins, don't touch anything, and everybody be careful. Had the noodles for a while. Now you no longer have that, and this renaissance for golf. You've had the beauty of 2 good years of timing, John. Last year, Tiger brought a lot of people back to the golf course with his Masters win, and y'all took over and rebranded things down at Timber Trust and Olive Branch. And now this year, with the pandemic, I know every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's been chock full.
Well, and it's not even been every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's pretty much 7 days a week now. I mean, slow days are, you're still having well over 100 people come out to the golf course. And the great part, too, that we're truly seeing is that it's not just men. We have had a substantial amount of ladies that are coming out to the golf course. We had our ladies' night last night. We were finally able to really kind of get that off the ground. We had 15 ladies last night come out, play golf, enjoy themselves, and we're hoping that that's going to continue to grow every single Tuesday at 5:30. We've to your point, yes, we've seen families. We've seen, young, old. I mean, obviously the fin cycles continue to be a huge hit. So you draw, a lot of different folks, to the golf course with that ability. And, so again, it's just been very, very encouraging on
you even allow the dog
to just see what's going on. Yeah.
You can bring the pet.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's been the funnier part of the whole thing is how many people are bringing their animals with them just to sit in a golf cart. So, that definitely gets a little edgy, but we don't want to maybe see a whole lot of that just for a lot of safety precautions and everything. But we've definitely had a few of those here and there.
I guess my question for you is: do you think, as an industry, there has been some lessons that have been learned that will go forth, like more single cart rounds or things about sanitation that you think will become more in vogue? I've noticed a lot of courses now are back to 2 people in carts, but they're still not moving the flag, and there's still no rakes in the bunker.
Yeah, again, I think that a lot of folks were eager to get back to the normalcy piece with being able to ride with their buddies. We are definitely still offering single rider options if you would prefer. But for the most part, everybody that is coming to play at our golf course is pretty much back to 2 in a cart. You are right. From the standpoint of, we raised the cup up out of the ground. We've been able to put the cup back down in the ground. We put the flagstick in the cup. We're just encouraging folks to not touch the flagstick. So, reaching down into the hole, we feel like that you can do that fairly safely. Rakes are still a thing. Water on the golf course as we, approach summertime with, extreme temperatures and things along those lines. I mean, water coolers and the such. And we've been talking a lot about what our options are going to be there as far as how are we going to handle that moving forward. We have reduced, the price of water so that we're not, having to hand it out just multiply for, mainly for safety reasons and things along those lines as well. So, we've definitely tried to do everything that we can to provide options for folks. But that's going to kind of be the next step is, as we start getting into warmer temperatures and hot, I mean, how are we going to handle certain things? I'll be honest, I personally feel, water going off the golf course, there were already so many challenges with that from a safety perspective. I mean, the sanitizing of water coolers and things along those lines. I just think for everybody's safety, it's best that we go to a bottled component and we just figure out how we can best service our customer from that standpoint. So, there are definitely some lessons. I mean, the sanitation piece is one of them, or, the disinfecting piece, but I still think that folks are going to want to ultimately be with their partner and go back to riding in golf carts with them. And realistically from our standpoint, as we get ready to add 8 more fin cycles in the next week or so, our single rider option will be a fin cycle, and that'll put us at 16 of those total. Which Whoa. Again, as I've touched on, that has definitely been a huge piece for us, and we're rapidly becoming very well known for that. So,
Does that
It's
cost
when-
more than
It does. It costs It costs $10 more. But from everybody, I had a couple of guys out on them today. I mean, it is the way to go for so many. Just because, again, I mean, we allow you to ride those up on the tee box. We allowed you to park them right on the collar of the green. We've got groups that can now play in 2 to 2.5 hours because of them. And they are very, very enjoyable, and that is every bit of feedback we continue to get about this product. And we're happy that we're out in front of it. We're happy to be the golf course in town that you can come down, and now that we're going to kind of grow the fleet to 16, our whole thought is for those people that want to get out first thing in the morning and be able to get a quick round in and everything, the fin cycle is going to be the way to go. And so, we're toying around with ideas of, if you play within that first 30 to 45 minutes, you're going to take a fin cycle with the pace of play expectation of 2 to 2.5 hours.
Explain what that is, because you've referenced it, and some people might not know. It looks like a bike.
Yeah, it looks like a bike.
It's when Jack Nicholson
powered.
meets Jack Nicklaus.
Yeah. So, it resembles, almost like a motorcycle, smaller footprint. The golf bag actually fits between your legs, and the club heads stick out between the handlebars. It is a battery powered, two-rider or two-wheeled option to be able to get folks around the golf course. It goes 15 miles an hour, so it goes faster than a regular golf cart. And, because of how light it is, it's 70 pounds as opposed to a few hundred pounds or so of a golf cart. It just provides a lot more maneuverability and flexibility for folks to be able to get out and enjoy around the golf course. And at the end of the day, too, I mean, I can't tell you how many folks walk in and they say, look, I didn't play really well today, but oh my gosh, knowing that I was going to get back on a fin cycle and go around just made my round so much more enjoyable, although I didn't play very well. And we've had folks that, look, this is the only place we're going to play because it was that much fun. And, really, again, nobody else in town has them. So.
And then they can finish and get one of I think the best hot dog at any grill in the area. John, the tour's going to get back next Wednesday. I had a little side bet with Dave on a Coca-Cola that it wouldn't. It's going to happen barring something massively unforeseen between now and next Thursday morning. And it's an all-star gallery. I know who's not in it, but I also know the many luminaries that are in it. There's never been more pressure on a commissioner, on Commissioner Monahan, on a sport. Next week's got to bat 1,000 in Fort Worth. That's hard to do, John. That's an awfully high bar for anybody in any occupation. Hey, go be perfect.
Absolutely. You're gonna kind of be the standard here. I mean, fortunately, from a golf perspective, it is going to be a little bit different. Considering that there's not groups of folks. I mean, yes, you're going to have the players and things along those lines. I mean, but the reduced amount of volunteers and everything that's going to be able to kind of get this tour season kind of ultimately restarted again. It's going to be very interesting. I mean, to your point, they're going to set a bit of the bar here as far as where things go. I don't want to be the commissioner when you're ultimately trying to figure out when is the absolute best time to start allowing spectators back. I don't think that you have any sort of win-win scenario in any of that. I mean, yes, you're going to be outside, but you're still getting into proximity and everything else. I mean, I know what they're ultimately wanting to do, by getting fans back out and everything. But until I think other major sporting events and things like that start to happen again, college football season, NFL, NBA, baseball, all of these things, until these other major sporting venues start to happen again, I think it's a really, really tough situation for the tour to allow folks to start coming back and watching golf tournaments. And so I would be very surprised if we see fans here, even in Memphis, here in the next month or so. just because you can't get that one wrong. You can't get that one wrong and have anybody be able to trace it back to, at the end of the day, I attended the WGC FedEx St. Jude Invitational in Memphis, and this is where it started again. I mean, you're going to run into a similar situation as to what happened, obviously in New Orleans with Mardi Gras and clearly in other major cities where, there have been so many challenges with trying to just control and contain and slow down, what this virus is doing to our country.
Well, I was going to ask you if you had any insight into what would happen with Memphis, and considering that for years you were a big part of the tournament at your golf course, TPC Southwind. Of course, now you own Timber Truss. So you probably don't have a total sense of what's going on there. But my question around that now is, most of the time the models for economics of these golf tournaments are that the tour gets all the money from the sponsors and television. Most of the time, the tournament does have some sponsors of its own that it can get, but it relies a lot on tickets sold. So how will the economic model that we have right now be if there's no galleries all year long?
Well, I mean, the tour always had, a bit of that rainy day piece. I mean, you had to think that this was kind of always sitting in the back of people's minds, that, the back in the days of the Stanford St. Jude event, and obviously with everything that happened there, I know that the tour stepped in to help, the event here in Memphis. And so, you have to expect that the tour, you couldn't have ever foreseen the amount of events that the tour is going to lose this year. But you would tend to think that there has always kind of been a bit of that contingency plan or fund kind of in place to be able to do certain things. So, it's going to be like anything else. I mean, I don't know, you would tend to think that clearly, these events, venues, concerts, everybody else does obviously take out insurance. I don't know whether there's the potential of any sort of insurance covering some of this to ultimately help out these events and their charitable dollars that get donated and things along those lines. But it's going to be just very interesting to kind of see what the dynamic of this whole thing is moving forward. This year is going to be very, very challenging, and for the host facilities to be able to raise funds and everything. The fortunate part is for a lot of them, they've been able to back out of a lot of these contracts and other things. So there is going to be the cost savings side of it that will, be a bit of the saving grace. But, it's going to more than likely be a bit of a down year for fundraising, charity fundraising for a lot of these events. But, I think as you look forward to the 2020-2021, season, hopefully things will start to turn back to normal, and we'll be able to have spectators come back out. And the very interesting one for me is going to be Augusta National. If we're still not back to allowing spectators at sporting events, Augusta National with no crowds will the roars through the pine trees will be sorely missed.
It'll definitely be weird. That is for sure. I keep hearing that Memphis is scheduled to be the number 2 back with galleries. So it'd be the second event to have crowds, and I do think even if we do have some, that it will be limited. I can't imagine it'll be the way we've seen it in the past.
The logistics behind
John,
that, Dave, are crazy. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, look, we were very fortunate late last July, with the event, the way the weather broke and everything else. I mean, if we really anticipate that from a Memphis standpoint, 2 years in a row, you're out of your mind. So, there's no hospitality tents, no place for people to basically seek refuge for air conditioning and things along those lines. There's just so many dynamics there that I if it's me, I'm just very, very concerned about how you handle, a substantial amount of people. And to your point, maybe it is limited people, but what does that limited number look like? Is it 5,000? Is it 10,000?
Good question.
I mean, it's just very, very hard.
And John, if we're still fanless by November, no, I'm sorry. What are the Masters dates? October, rather, isn't it?
October, I believe. Yeah. Well, no, it's November. It's right before Thanksgiving.
No, it's November. Yeah, no,
it's right.
It's
November.
November.
It's like the
if
week
we're
or
still
so before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, if we're fanless in November, Masters not going off in 2020 is shot, and it may very well be.
It could. Look, obviously things are a bit more encouraging right now. I'm definitely not trying to be the gloom and doom person by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, obviously we've had colleges open back up. You've had local high schools starting to open back up for athletes to be able to start training and returning and things along those lines. The next few weeks, are going to be very, very interesting. I was talking to a local high school individual, yesterday, and there's discussion of maybe getting rid of the dark period there, even for high school sports, since you've already been off for such a long period of time. But you're cutting into family vacations and things along those lines. So things are definitely moving in a positive direction. I mean, clearly, as you continue to watch the television, I mean, baseball's in their conversations. The NBA is trying to figure out how they can get things back to a bit of normal and everything. So, I think we're all, especially after these last 8, 10, 12 weeks, and not being able to watch ESPN much at all because it's just, and obviously y'all's jobs are very, very challenging right now as well. I think we're all anxious to get back to something where we can, really have something to talk about and just excited and look forward to that day.
And for golf, that is the Schwab, June 11th. I think it is going to happen, and if so, John, who do you like? How difficult will it be for these players? I mean, Tiger came back in the match. I don't think he missed a shot. He looked fantastic. Now, granted, that is his home course. Do you have anybody in mind that you think is really going to be good right off the bat?
Nope. I don't know how you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these guys have been off for so long. I mean, obviously it's, you've seen a little bit of Dustin and Rory and some others, but, I don't know. It's you can't have a favorite or you can't have anybody really kind of going into this. It's going to be a very unique situation for all of us. I mean, picks next week are going to be challenging because usually you as we're already deep into our season here, I mean, heck, we're coming up on what used to be U.S. Open date, here in the next few weeks.
Right.
And you always kind of get a feel week to week. I mean, these guys kind of have their courses and things along those lines. And, now you haven't had any sort of opportunity for these guys to create or build or, generate any sort of momentum going into anything. I mean, so they're all coming out of the gates. It'll be interesting. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of stumbling. Clearly they've all had time to practice and get plenty of rest. So rest shouldn't be hey, I'm out of shape or I'm out of this or I'm out of that.
Injuries.
Had plenty of that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Look
Picks
forward to it,
begin
though.
next
It'll be a
week,
great
John. We look forward to it, too.
John, I heard a quote from you about something about no matter what happens, Wolo can't win this year. Was that?
That's the mantra. That's the team. Me and you and Drew.
Was that actually stated by you, John?
I don't think that.
And by me.
I think that's awfully accusatory, Wolo. I don't think that
it's not accusatory. I'm just asking. It was quoted by somebody. I can't reveal who that quote came from.
Oh, so now we're not revealing our
it was
sources.
me.
Is this what this is? This is where
it
this
was
is
me.
going?
I said it. It's me and John and Drew against Dave. That's what it is.
Wow.
Hey, Dave,
Yeah.
if there's a point in time this year where you feel like that the world is against you,
Yes, it is.
it is. If
Yes.
you feel like a lot of this year it's 3 against 1, you would not be incorrect.
As John Calipari used to say, he can't be paranoid when it's true.
So I guess I'm a little like riding your, what do you call that thing? The fin thing?
Fins.
Yeah, the fin cycle.
I'm on your fin cycle. I am all by my lonesome. It's
Yep.
okay.
On ice.
You're on an
All
island.
right.
On a sheet of ice.
It's all right. I'm ready. No wonder he wouldn't give me
Thank you, John.
who he thought was going to be hot, you know?
We're not
Nothing.
giving you
He
anything.
didn't want to give anything away.
Nope.
All
You're
right.
getting the
Not-
second pick
not
because
one
you won
piece.
last year. The guest goes first.
He'll need to.
I will. I'm going to be as rusty as these players are next week.
All right. John, glad everything's going so well at
Thank
Timber
you.
Trust, and I'm looking forward to our weekly conversations.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, guys. Look forward to next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You got it.
That is John Goen. He's brought to you in part by Memphis Tourism and the Memphis Sports Council. You know, they're involved in the conversations. I know there were meetings. I think might have been today. Involved in the meetings about how we're going to bring everything back, including the WGC. You know, we had Kevin Kane on, and he was talking about first, 82 teams in Cordova? That was the first tournament anywhere in the country, and they had it here. And everything, by the way, went beautifully. Then, I think he said the next week, there were 120 teams throughout the Shelby County area. I am just going to tell you, they are world-class at what they do. The Sports Council, the Memphis Tourism, Kevin Kane, Melvin Gibson, J.J. Greer, all these guys, they really get it. They understand. And they're involved in Music Fest, and they're involved in, like, the new sporting events, like the St. Judah Ironman. They're all there working year-round because the bottom line is Memphis's tourism brings millions and, well, basically $1 billion in help to the economy. And they are a part of it, and we are proud that the Memphis Tourism and Sports Council are a part of our radio station. We'll take the time out. We're going to go over all the stories of the day, and my goodness, this is about as busy as it gets. Some good, some sad. That's next.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Peter Edmiston and CJ Hurts. Right here on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7 FM.
Do you get into bed and find your mind still going? If so, try ZzzQuil Pure Z's liquid melatonin. It's made with an optimal level of melatonin for no next day grogginess. Pure Z's liquid melatonin, because sleep is a beautiful thing, at stores now.
Anyone who builds, remodels, or repairs for a living, we know the way you work has changed. That's why Lowe's is committing today to build new ways to keep you working tomorrow. We are proud to introduce the new Lowe's for Pros job site, powered by Stream, an augmented video chat tool so you can be there for your customers without actually being there. And the cost to use? Try it free through October 31st at lowesforpros.com/proloyalty. Just one of the reasons why Lowe's is the new home for pros. Services subject to Stream terms. Lowe's loyalty membership required. More terms apply.
Great news, sports fans. The Butcher Shop Steakhouse is now open for dine-in service. Make a reservation and enjoy a mouth-watering steak dinner. Or, if you prefer, take it curbside. In addition to their fantastic steaks, the Butcher Shop Steakhouse has a variety of entrees, including Canadian lobster tail, crab-stuffed shrimp, pan-seared red snapper, and fresh ground steak burger with portobello mushroom sauce. Planning to cook out? The Butcher Shop Steakhouse offers a great selection of hand-cut fresh steaks, lamb chops, Atlantic salmon, and more. Father's Day is coming soon, so make your reservation for dine-in or pre-order for curbside pickup. The Butcher Shop Steakhouse, dine-in, curbside, and delivery. Call us at 757-4244 and visit our website, thebutchershop.com, for menus and more. The Butcher Shop Steakhouse, Walnut Grove and Germantown Parkway.
We saved serious cash with our Progressive Home and Auto Bundle and used the money to buy a new boat.
Who's ready to water ski?
This is not a real testimonial. Sure, customers can save big money with Progressive, but not enough for a new boat. They'll probably spend it on rent or gas money or maybe one of those little plastic wading pools for the yard.
Ahoy there!
Is what the captain might say. On the toy boat. In your wading pool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Looking for a great place to deposit your money? Try First Bank. Competitive CD rates, a money market that moves with Wall Street prime and interest-bearing checking account options. Not to mention their friendly bankers who make decisions locally. To find out more, stop by one of First Bank's 3 local branches: 6482 Poplar Avenue, just east of International Paper, 8398 Highway 64 across from Wolf Chase, and 6280 Highway 64 in Oakland. Or visit firstbankonline.com. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Welcome in as we are halfway through our final hour on this Wednesday. It has been probably the most newsworthy day I think we've had, with big stories everywhere, since the pandemic began. I think that is a fair statement. Let me just start with some news that we haven't mentioned today, but I think is nice, and that was the market today. Up 527 points and well over 26,200 now. At its zenith, it was 29,000. It had gone down to 18,000. I'm not sure, Brett. You are actually more insightful on this than me. But what do you think caused that surge today?
I think the slow restart to the country, and people are bullish on the country getting back to work and trying to get 40 million people that have lost their jobs since the 10th of March back employed and back to the engine of commerce.
I certainly like that trend, and so that was a good day. But this was a day of stories. It began with the passing of Johnny Majors at the age of 85. Both you and I knew Johnny a little bit. I got to work with Johnny just a little bit. I always admired him. I know there were plenty of people that thought he got robbed of the Heisman Trophy in 1956 when Notre Dame, what they did win? 2 games, Notre Dame?
Won 2 games.
Two games.
That year, Notre Dame, they beat North Carolina and I can't remember, and maybe Indiana. North Carolina and Indiana to go 2-8. And he proved the old saw, and that I think is mostly accurate, that a superstar player often doesn't make a great coach, because he was a superstar player. I know it was a long time ago, and most of our listening audience, and I wasn't alive then, can't really relate to his stardom. But before a guy named Peyton Manning came along at Tennessee, he was clearly the greatest Tennessee player ever on the offensive side. Well, maybe Reggie White on the defensive side.
No question.
But he
and we've lost Brett there.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, and anyway, 56 was what I was referring to when he got robbed of the Heisman. So he was, in the 50s, a great player. And then he was a great coach. You win a national title, you're a great coach. And Mike DeCourcy talked earlier about no one has really had the kind of turnaround and sustained success for the years that he was at Pitt than Johnny Majors.
Well, Jackie Sherrill did, and it was back-to-back in the great job that they did there. But since that back-to-back job over the course of 73 to about the 81-82 season, it is shown once again to be a really tough job. A lot of the reasons why it's tough, look at the proximity. There are a lot of ball players in their backyard, but everybody in the world wants them, and they've got a superpower right there in state with them. When Mike was talking about the Thanksgiving Day Thanksgiving Day route of Penn State, that was probably a bigger win for them than beating Georgia to win the national championship. They were just that much better than Georgia. But the whole Joe Pa thing in Penn State really that was big for them. And Dave, we can remember where the whole Johnny Majors ouster at UT, when it happened and where it happened. And it happened right in Memphis on a weekend that the Tigers were playing Tennessee, probably were the better team that day. Probably too. It should have won, lost 26-21 in a heartbreaker. And that Friday night, after he had just returned back to the team after a long, serious illness with coronary heart disease, the coup went down, and the coup went down for a lot of reasons. It really tied into yesterday's topic about Coach Pat Dye. The 92 season was his last year at Auburn, and Philip Fulmer, he was basically leveraging the Tennessee job off the Auburn job. I will go and take the Auburn job if I don't get the Tennessee job that I've done good work with in Coach Major's absence. And the Tennessee people listen to that. It will be quite the scene to see if Philip Fulmer leads the official University of Tennessee athletics department delegation to his funeral service.
I don't know. I can tell you, I told the story earlier on about the first time I ever worked with Johnny Majors in Savannah at the NAIA National Football Championship, which we did the television for on a network that no longer exists. And at that time, Johnny really was holding a grudge against Philip, and he held that grudge for many, many, many years. Now, the last time I saw him, he was walking around Knoxville with a smile. I saw him outside the baseball stadium. This might have been 4 or 5 years ago. And, I don't know if he continued to hold animosity toward Philip all the way to the end. I hope they made peace. I don't really know. But you're right.
It was ugly.
To see.
It was a coup. Philip Fulmer won. He produced for his alma mater very well. He produced bigger than Johnny Majors ever did. For a lot of people, Johnny Majors was probably he was a better player at Tennessee than he was head coach. He won, but he didn't win a national championship.
No.
He didn't win as big as Philip Fulmer, but it was not even in comparison between the two of them.
He did
as
win
players
3 SEC
in the
titles.
UT days.
He did win 3 SEC titles. So he was a
did,
good coach.
He was a good coach, but as good as he was on the field and as a head coach, the SEC all-timer to do both at their school. We had Steve Spurrier to win a Heisman Trophy and a national championship, and share a birthday with the Wolo.
Steve Spurrier's birthday is April 20th?
1945, 8 years before you.
I'll be done.
Can we talk about your birthday? We were told not to for a few weeks. Can we now?
We can. I never knew that. I never knew that Spurrier shared, or I share his because he was here before me. So we heard about Johnny Majors, and then the news broke today about the NBA, and they're coming back with 22 teams, 5 vying for a position at the bottom of the West, 2 vying for a position at the bottom of the East. There will be 8 regular season games, and I guess you have the report from Yahoo that it will be the next 8 games you would have played. And all the teams that Memphis were going to play are still in the mix of 22, so those games would be.
And it's murderer's row for the Grizzlies.
It is. Oh yeah. Well,
they could go 0-8. They're not going to go 8-0, but they could go 1-7. They could go 2-6. It somewhere in Portland, Utah, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, New Orleans twice, Boston, and Toronto. That's a lot of losses.
Yeah. Well, that would be the Toronto game can't be in there because that would be
that'd be the 9th game.
Yeah,
that'd be the 9th.
Yeah,
game.
So
just the 8, and you also would get this with Milwaukee and Boston at the bottom of that. They'll be secure. They might check out and send out the old G League team.
That's what you're hoping for, right? And then you're gonna, if that happens, you'll have New Orleans, San Antonio, and Portland all mad at you. At least you got. You don't even get Sacramento in this deal, do you? Every team that you're playing in this thing is, except for San Antonio, pretty well locked.
Yeah, even if Sacramento in there, you would skip that one because they're not going to be in the mix.
They're not in that bottom 5.
I don't think they'll be part of the resumption plan, are they?
Let me double check. It's just been one of those crazy days where my little worksheet I forgot, so my wife has texted it to me in a picture, and I'm referring to it from that. The teams that made it, Sacramento's in there. Portland, from the West, New Orleans, Portland, Phoenix, Sacramento, San Antonio, and only Washington is the extra non-playoff team at the moment from the East. So Sacramento's in there. They would have played them, but they're not playing them.
So that is dodged because Sacramento, they lost to them the last time they played them. The Grizzlies, for all the good work, you go back to when they did play, that last 10 before the shutdown, it had leveled off.
It did. But it's so tough to tell because they're going to be healthy now. Remember, they didn't have Jaren. Winslow was just about to come back, so this will be a whole new team
and a refreshed Jaw.
Because
he had been splattered a bunch.
Valanciunas will have of the old guys. He'll be ready to go. Dylan Brooks will be completely healthy. I don't know if Grayson Allen would be. He was the only one I think that was still out for the year. So you'll have everybody but Grayson Allen and maybe even him who would be back. So, they should be well armed, but they'll need to be with that murderer's row if that is the schedule that they do indeed have to play. See,
the league just doing everything they can to get Zion Williamson moving on, but most of it will be filler because if the Grizzlies do hang on, or if the Pels do win, Pels versus, I don't know where they would be seated, but neither one of them making any noise after the first round.
I agree. I agree. And then after we saw the NBA story and some people were going robbery and everything else, we learned Mike Miller through a Twitter on his own that he was going to spend more time with his family. He was stepping down as assistant coach of the University of Memphis. There were reports last week about him taking a job in the front office with the Detroit Pistons as an assistant GM. And even though he's got a relationship with Eddie Stefanski, who's running that organization, Eddie's going to pick himself a GM, and that GM, you would think, would pick his right-hand man. So it makes more sense to me that the other thing that I've learned is I think Mike is toying with the idea of becoming an agent, and I think he'd be a good agent. He's already picked up already from guys from the AAU who have a trust in him. He's shown to be a great recruiter, so he certainly builds relationships, and he's got
he's going to be working for a shop. It's not going to be Mike Miller agency.
No, it's not going to be his own, but he's got business sense. We know that, and so. I think that if indeed that is the role he takes, the path or the journey, whatever he said in his release onto the next chapter, whatever that may be, I think he'll be successful.
His release said more family time. It ain't family time. He didn't want to coach ball anymore. And Sam Mitchell last year and Mike Miller this year, and Sam Mitchell knew it, and Mike Miller I think learned it. It is a hard racket. I don't think I'd want to be chasing around every 14 and 15 and 16-year-old in the country.
Mike was really good at it, and you sort of do that now anyway. If you're going to be an agent, if that's the chapter he takes, and I'm speculating on that. Mike's not told me that himself, but if that's the chapter he takes, basically you start recruiting them as juniors or seniors in high school, because now they're going to be going straight either with a G League contract, an elite G League contract, or straight into the NBA. So you are going to do that a bit as an agent, especially if you are coming in for another agency at the first step, second step, not at the top of the penthouse. That is for certain. And
Mike DeCourcy said a recruiter would be more important than maybe the X and O guy. The ideal person would be someone of a good mix. I never thought of Mike Miller. I know he played for a long time, but I never thought of him as X and O scout, grease board guy.
Well, let me tell you, when the story first broke, of course my son Jacob called me, and I started to think about this, and my first reaction was much like Mike's. Was his role was really that as a recruiter. And so I do think, Penny's going to need some help, but Penny's the closer. And Penny carried on, because I think Penny was the guy that got the transfers after Jalen Green and Greg Brown basically didn't show up here. And so I thought the recovery was pretty good, and I think that was pretty much all Penny Hardaway. So I was thinking he would need some recruiting help, and I like your idea of having another guy who is a development guy as well, and it's hard to find that combination. But I want to say this about Mike. Mike's scouts, and if you go to shoot-arounds before a game, you see who can really sometimes coach, because they're the ones that are teaching of the other team's game plan. They do that scout of that team, and they rotate, unless you're John Calipari and you have John Robick. Each of the assistants gets a team, and they rotate them. In Memphis's case, it would go Miller to Toppert to Madlock, right? I got to tell you, his scouts were fantastic. I always thought we were really, really prepared to play when Mike Miller did the scout. So I do think
who had the Tulsa
X's
scout?
And O's. I don't know who had the Tulsa scout. That's a good question.
Would anybody claim it?
I can tell you this: he had the Tennessee scout when Memphis won in Knoxville. Yeah, I don't know who'd claim that one. That Tulsa one was crazy. And then the final story we talked about, and that was Moussa Cisse, who was supposed to make a decision today and did not make a decision today. And there are many out there who think that was a very good thing for the Tigers. Who knows? I'm not in the mind of the 17-year-old. Some people thought he was originally going to come here. LSU got in his head that when he made the decision he was going to announce on Wednesday, that was going to be where they were going. He was going to go to Baton Rouge. His delay is a good thing for Memphis. We'll have to wait and find out. In the meantime, short comment from Joe, who wants to chime in on Mike Miller on the First Bank phone lines. Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, just real quick. Maybe the best game the Tigers have played yet in the Penny era was when they had Jeremiah Martin first year. They were trying to win the conference tournament at the Forum, and they came up against UCF, a team that was 2 tip-ins away from taking out Zion and Duke.
Right.
And Mike Miller was given a defensive game plan, and they absolutely shut UCF down. And that's a UCF team that, I mean, that ball should have gone in. They should have been at least a Sweet 16 team. I think it was like 80-55. You'd have to look up the score, but something like that. And that was praised by Penny in the press conference that it was Mike Miller's defensive game plan, and they shut him down.
And that was with Dawkins Kid and Taco Fall. You're right. Mike is a better, for sure, X's and O guy than some people might have thought. He was terrific. We're going to miss him. There's no doubt. Thank you, Joe. We appreciate it. We got to run. Back in a minute, because you know what's next? We've got crunch time.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ. Listen to us daily on AM 560, 96.1 FM, or 87.7 FM.
Farmers Insurance knows that when you're in the car and that song comes on, yes, that's the one, you have no choice but to pull out your imaginary drumsticks and smash those cymbals and stomp on that kick pedal, which unfortunately is the accelerator pedal. And we covered it. Talk to a farmer's agent who knows a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two.
Call Chad Gatlin at 901-235-1176 or get a fast quote at memphisfarmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
I'm here with the great Pat Donahue from the Rendezvous Restaurant Shipping Department.
Thanks, Brett. We've been shipping our ribs all over the country now for decades from our USDA-inspected shipping kitchen in the Pinch District. We hand-cook our ribs in pits that Mr. Charlie built over charcoal, just like they do at the restaurant.
So what comes in a rib box?
We could do pork shoulder, we could do ribs, our sauce, seasoning, baked beans, coleslaw. We'll even throw in Pancho's cheese dip with our nacho boxes. We also put a bag of Rendezvous seasoned popcorn, heating instructions, some chef hats, some wet naps, and some other helpful tips from our kitchen. We ship our ribs overnight, exclusively FedEx. And we put them in nice packaging. We don't ever want to use styrofoam, so we use corrugated cardboard, actually 2 boxes that fit nice together. So the ribs get to you, your loved ones, or your clients in a safe, wholesome manner. Rendezvous ribs are perfect for out-of-town clients, customers, loved ones. We also ship ribs for any occasion.
Where do we order these great ribs?
You can go to www.hogsfly.com or give us a call at 1-888-464-7359.
Charlie Burgos' Rendezvous Restaurant in the alley since 1948.
Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
Chris Price here for Brian Elder Roofing. The storms we've had over the past several months have been devastating to our communities. The rainy season is ahead. You may have not even noticed the dripping in your attic, water stains throughout your home, or even worse, mold and mildew. Please call Brian Elder Roofing and we will send out our project managers to assess any damage. We will not try to sell you a roof if all you need is a repair. We will measure your roof from outer space. 0% for 60 months, even no payments till 2022 are available with approved credit. If you've noticed missing shingles, water stains, leaks in your roof, call us before you call your insurance company at 867-0303. That's 867-0303, and we will provide a free, thorough inspection of your roof's condition.
Call 867-0303. Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
Hi, folks. Bob Burkhammer for Sunrise Buick GMC Truck. Lots of vehicles to choose from at Sunrise. Trucks, SUVs, late model used cars, and cars under $10,000. Rebates up to $6,500. Interest rates low as 0% and immediate financing available. Come on in, call, or go online to sunrisememphis.com. You can schedule an appointment, select your vehicle, appraise your trade-in, arrange financing and delivery. We'll deliver right to your doorstep. All cars disinfected and ready to go. Need service or body work? Bring it to Sunrise or go online to schedule an appointment. Sunrise, Covington Pike, Wolf Chase, and Collierville.
Oh, my stomach. When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Try new Pepto-Bismol chews. The same fast relief of Pepto-Bismol, now in a delightful chew.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Wolosian and Brad Norsworthy.
Final segment on what has been a very newsworthy day. It's brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch, and of course, that is also the home, the genesis of Olive Branch. What a place. Always ahead of the bar, setting the standard, I think, for the way car business should be done. Homer and Genesis have been doing it forever. Same crew, and they've always find ways to motivate, like 0% financing for 84 months, and even on some select models, 120 days to make that first payment. Now, listen, we understand pandemic, people out of work, but you're back to work now. Take 3 or 4 months, depending on the deal and the model, and you don't make your first payment until then. It is terrific, and these are great products. So safe, so high in technology, so high performing and durable. The 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty on every new car on the lot. Please get right on Lamar. You get into Mississippi, you get to the first exit, it's Craft Road, turn left, and you'll see all the gang. Chris True leads the way at Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. It is crunch time.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
This is for all the biggest crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that?
Take questions again for the student athletes at this time, please.
What's happening, big dog? How you doing?
Is this thing working?
It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin. This baby is over.
Woo! Woo!
Time for Taco Bell Crunch Time. Taco Bell, home of the crispy tortilla chips, topped with a double portion of either seasoned beef or shredded chicken, plus refried beans, nacho cheese sauce, reduced fat sour cream, guacamole, and a 3-cheese blend. Nachos Bel Grande, heaping portion of chips, topped with ground beef, tomatoes, beans, nacho cheese sauce, and a dollop of sour cream. Taco Bell, home to great food you get on your way home real fast, and they bring you crunch time every day. Learn today, we talked about it a lot. We'll talk about it even more tomorrow. Vince Ferrara will join us from Knoxville, and also Charles Davis will be with us tomorrow. But Paul Hornung, that year he beat Johnny Majors out for the Heisman Trophy. He only beat him by 72 votes, 1066 to 94. Both of them were lucky to be that high, because here's the rub. Oklahoma's Tommy McDonald, he had 977 votes for third. That's not far behind. No. And his OU teammate, Jerry Tubbs, came in fourth. If it hadn't been for the split OU ballot, Tommy McDonald would have walked off with it. Jim Brown came in fourth.
We learned today.
I'm sorry, fifth.
We learned today Derek Chauvin, the police officer who knelt on the neck of George Floyd, has now had his murder charge changed by the Attorney General of Minnesota from third-degree murder to second-degree murder. And also the three other officers that were there on the scene and watched, they have now been charged with aiding and abetting in a second-degree murder charge.
Could have done without Vic Fangio's comments. He's right about on game day. It is a strict meritocracy on game day. And Tony Dungy mostly said what I'm saying and getting ready to say. But leading up to game day, you would have to be blind to not see that there's a lot of racial preferential treatment, and it's just not recognizing the situation. I'm sad to see Drew Brees catching what he's catching for saying what he's saying. But the timing award was not well.
Terrible, but I'm sad because this is America and you are supposed to be able to have an opinion and express the way you feel. And what he's basically saying is we have a lot of room to improve, but I personally, this is him, not me, would not disrespect the flag at any point in time. And he's got a right to make that statement. Yeah,
he sure does. But I understand what the players are trying to do with their protest.
No doubt, and I think their protest about police targeting and injustice is on the money, and we need to recognize this. And let's just hope that all of these protests are really a major turning point in this country. I could have done without Major League Baseball rejecting the Players Union's 114-game plan. Not necessarily they just rejected it, but there was no counter offer. They just basically said,
nobody wants to
we're not doing this. No.
Now, there's not a lot of movement around baseball. We'll visit about baseball as well tomorrow with Tim Doolin. Keeping a close eye tonight on more NBA scheduling for everybody else. I want to look at everybody else's schedules over those next 8 games and see who they get to skip. At some point, the NBA's got to address season ticket holders. I was told by a season ticket couple about $6,000 worth that the Grizzlies are offering credit for next year with ticket plans, but no cash back.
You can't ask for your money back?
They did and were told no, that they could be applied to tickets next year.
That sounds like a lawsuit waiting to be happened if that indeed is the case. We want to thank Jarvis Greer, Mike DeCourcy, Rick Horo, and John Goen. It was fun talking to him. Have a great night, everybody.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Do you have